morning.
Hey, last second adjustments. Hang on.
Good
That dude's still goated. That guy's still the best media interview maybe ever.
Hey, look, I'm Brandon.
You know, it's you know, there's just there's
I felt amazing for a moment, and then you fixed it.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys, girls, children of all ages, the Rob Brown Radio program is on your radio. Happy Thursday, my dudes, my dudettes, my amigos, my amigas. It is ever so wonderful once again to be with you here on the radio broadcast. 4 hours of sports talk, entertainment excellence coming your way, starting right this very second. My name is Rob Brown. The pleasure is almost exclusively mine because,
hey,
of course,
Daddy, how you doing?
I'm real good. I'm never going to get it out of my head now. Every time that clip plays from friend of the show, NASCAR Cup Series driver Corey LaJoie, that man watched me make the biggest ass out of myself in real life. It's going to haunt me for you. It still does, by the way. And I want you to know, for those of you that missed the NASCAR stock car story from, what was it, last week, this week? I don't even know anymore. It
was last week.
I've bleached it from my memory to the best of my ability. That there has been, and I mean this, not fewer than thrice since that your boy has like wanted a brownie hot fudge sundae or wanted to knock back a big old fat slice of cheesecake. And no less than thrice have I said to myself, because it was pointed out to me by the Stone
Have you
Man.
been reading Shakespeare or something? Why are we going with thrice?
I like being dramatic.
Okay, all right.
No other reason. It was pointed out to me by our buddy, the Stone Man, not terribly long ago, that occasionally around the area there are celebrity races at some of the local racetracks. And I'm not saying that I'm ever going to be invited to participate in one, as I am not a celebrity.
Not on his level.
Not on Stone Man's level, that is for sure. I don't know if I'll ever be invited to one, but I promise you there will not be an occasion in my life where I get invited to one and then I show up and can't race because my fat ass can't fit in the car.
Did you get the level?
Yeah, I got it.
Okay. I hope he did too.
Point is, every time I hear Corey LaJoie ask, "How you doing, Big Daddy?" my response is, "I've been better." Welcome in. Great to have you guys. What a show we got lined up for you today. It is Thursday. You know that means we got a couple of benchmarks that we are going to hit throughout the course of the show today. We have got Rashad Beard of the Panther Nation podcast. Fingers crossed, haven't heard from him yet, but it's also 6 o'clock in the morning. And much like Heath Slater, Rashad got kids. So he's probably busy. But Rashad's scheduled to be here.
He also might be asleep. I mean, there's that. I mean,
either way, Rashad scheduled to be here coming up this morning at 8:40 to talk Carolina Panther football with us. Coming up at 9:20, it's Thursday, and you know what that means. Time for Fight Club with the great one, Lonzo. And we got a lot to get to, all right? We're probably going to go a slightly extended Fight Club today because we have had some WrestleMania conversations, but we have not gotten to everything that took place last weekend in the greatest spectacle in entertainment. But there was also a big deal, depending on how you viewed it and how you took it, a big deal on AEW Dynamite last night. We got to break down as well.
It's like every other thing on my social media.
Yeah, and you know,
which my algorithm is kind of geared towards wrestling, right. But still.
The social media is kind of it's kind of a circle. It's kind of an inner circle thing. Like you propagate what you like to see. But there's a lot of conversation ongoing as the video from the confrontation between CM Punk and Jack Perry was shown on AEW, and it does not reflect highly upon one particular party. So we're going to give you our thoughts on that later on in the show during Fight Club at 9:20. We have had some news this week regarding the legal strife between the ACC and Florida State. Obviously, it does have an impact on the Clemson Tigers, and we need to get into that on the radio broadcast today, because there was not only the decision that took place that we told you about last week on the show, but there was also a conversation that took place down in Florida about the court case filed by FSU against the ACC. So we need to get into that later on in the show, because it does have a large impact on the conversations surrounding the future of the conference as a whole. Obviously, it is Masters Thursday. However, we did get some updates overnight from Augusta National Golf Course. Told you yesterday, got an opportunity to talk to Jason Sobel on the show. He is a reporter who covers the PGA Tour as a whole for Sirius, for BetMGM, and for other entities. Welp, he told me on Tuesday that Augusta was already making preparations for weather to have an impact on the course, for weather to have an impact on the tournament itself. Now we have some updates. Last night, late last night, and then again at 5 a.m. this morning, we got some updates. The most recent update, the one that did come at 5 o'clock this morning, that update said that as of right now, we will not have the Masters start before 9 a.m. today. We will not start it until after 9 a.m. Now, we do not know what that means. We don't know if that means they're pushing it back an hour, a couple of hours. We don't know if there is possible postponement coming, but it is going to have some impact. And trust me, Augusta wants nothing more than to make sure that this tournament at least gets its start today. Okay? They want it to at least go off today, at least to start today. And they want it to at least start today so that they give themselves a chance to have it wrap up on Sunday. Now, I am currently looking at a projected weather forecast for Augusta National Golf Course. And what I am seeing right now is that the heaviest rains are well to the south of Augusta National at this point. Augusta National, of course, located almost due south of Greenville, South Carolina. Almost due south. It really is about due south of Spartanburg. And
why'd you point down?
Because that's south.
No.
Down is south.
Okay.
If I'm looking at a map, down is south.
Okay.
I don't believe that that's literally south.
Okay. All right.
So on the map, you stand in Spartanburg, you go due south, you're at Augusta National Golf Course. And the weather projection that I'm looking at right now shows that the heaviest rains at Augusta are past. The majority of the system that would have an impact on the tournament is over closer to the Atlantic seaboard. The heaviest part of it is over Savannah and moving northeast right now. And according to projections from weather.com, from what I am looking at right now, we've probably got about another hour or so until the rains clear away from Augusta. Now, there are more rains down to the southwest of Augusta, and they are moving towards it. It does look like they are light rains. Obviously, still not going to play in the rain, but it does appear, according to the weather.com forecast, that the majority of the rain will be out of the area, and Augusta National should see that rain lift sometime around 10 a.m. Then, of course, there is recovering the course before they put golfers out there for the most prestigious golf tournament on planet Earth. So my assumption, though again, I am not a meteorologist, I'm just an idiot with a microphone. My assumption is that we will have the first guys go out between 11 a.m. and noon. That'll give the boys of Augusta National about an hour to 2 hours to straighten up the course. I don't know how much work they'll need to do. I will say that the overnight weather was worse than the weather that is rolling through right now. The overnight weather was where the wind was going to come from. Obviously, after what happened last year, where a tree fell at Augusta National, it was very close to hitting some patrons. They're not going to take any risks this year. They're not going to take any chances. So, fingers crossed we'll get this thing kicked off later on this afternoon. And I'll give you updates as Augusta releases them. The most recent one was about an hour and 15 minutes ago when they said that the first tee times will not be before 9 o'clock. I am telling you now, it's going to be well after 9 o'clock. I would believe, based on what I'm seeing right now, the better chance is that the first tee times will not go off until well after this show goes off the air. So unfortunately, we will not have the opening round updates for you on the show today. Unfortunately, you'll have to check in to Wire to Wire. Old habits die hard. Wire to Wire with Cole Bryson and Diesel, who I'm sure will give you leaderboard updates later on during their show from 3 to 7 this afternoon.
I'm sure.
I have no doubt. I know Cole's a Masters guy. Diesel got pretty big into golf for a hot minute there. Like, I got Diesel into golf. He was playing more than me for the better part of about 8 months. And then I haven't heard if he's still playing. I don't know if he's into it or not. And I don't know if Augusta is on his radar. I mean, I'm sure it's on his radar because he's a sports talk radio host. But I don't know if it's on his radar as a fan. Like, I'm going out of my way to watch this. For me, don't text me this weekend, okay? I mean, don't text me anyway, because
he's not going to answer.
As it's just about everybody I've worked with, and most everyone I know has learned at this point. If you need a response from me, call me. Call me, because the text, I'll get back to you. It just may not be on a schedule that's helpful to you,
or you won't,
or I won't at all. So if you need me, call me. But if it's this weekend, don't call me, because I'm busy.
I will barrage. I will hit text and X and Facebook. And if all those don't work, I will text someone else.
Yeah. If you need me and you need me on a rapid schedule, like you need an answer now, that's not true. If you text me and go, Rob, I need to know this for the show or for the station or whatever, I will immediately text you back. But if it's not something that I can help with immediately, I go, all right, I'm just going to leave this as unread. Let me tell you what the system turns out to be. I'm going to leave this unread. That way, on my phone screen, the little notification stays up. And if that notification stays up, I'll go, oh, yeah, that's right. That's Lonzo's text. I need to circle back around and answer that. And what ends up happening inevitably is that down the road, later on, I'm like, stupid notification, and I swipe it off. And then I forget to circle back around until an hour and a half later when somebody else texts me. I open that text. I go to the text list and I go, oh, crap, I forgot to text Lonzo back.
And probably the worst thing of all is when Rob knows I'm bored.
I mean,
because I will send like 25 texts in a row just because he won't answer them.
Not necessarily all about the same thing either, by the way.
Just because he won't answer them.
Last week, Lonzo sent me a text. I didn't answer. And then I got like 7 or 8 texts of dinner updates. How his dinner was going at, where was it? Texas Roadhouse, I think. Just like, got the bread. It's good. It's delicious.
No, it was Outback.
That's it.
That was a month ago, but still.
It was not a month ago.
Absolutely. You probably haven't looked at all of them, so you can go back and find. It might have been longer than a month ago.
There's no way, dude.
Oh, it was.
It was the first round of the tournament. That wasn't a month ago. Well, I guess it was pretty close to a month ago, wasn't it? Damn.
You do realize we're halfway through April, right?
Oh, don't like that. Don't like that at all. All right. So, coming up on the show today, speaking of the Masters, give you some of my best bets for the Masters, some of the things that I'm keeping an eye on in the Masters today. Looking forward to that. We'll talk, obviously, some college football with the updates to the FSU ACC lawsuit in Tallahassee. We got the update earlier this week about the lawsuit in North Carolina. We'll get an update on the one in Tallahassee coming up in a little while. We'll talk some NBA basketball as the play-in tournament is upon us. Most teams have 1 or 2 games left on the schedule. So we'll take a look at who's in, who's out, who's going to be playing in, and who's going to be playing off. And we'll get to that coming up in a little while. Braves game yesterday delayed due to rain in Atlanta. Stop me if you've heard this one before. They will make that game up in September. The Bravos are scheduled today to take on the Mets in an afternoon game. So we'll take a look at that one and see where that goes. A lot of stuff to get to, a lot of stuff to talk about, a lot we need to address, and we will. My name is Rob Brown. The great one Lonzo is on the ones and twos this morning. Keeping an eye on the weather at Augusta. We'll give you updates as they come out, but we got a lot more to talk about besides golf on the Rob Brown Show and the Fan Upstate. Mike, good morning, brother. Good to have you.
It looked like Tiger and Rory were about to have a flex off when they showed them.
Tiger is yoked, dude.
Yeah. Does that hurt his flexibility, though? I sent you a couple of things on X, by the way. Malachi Black studying the Wembley footage, so he knows exactly what to do to get fired. So, according to the internet, so it's got to be true, AEW is trying to flag and take down all the videos of people re-showing the footage.
You can't do that. You made the decision to show it. Now you got to roll with it. Scotty Scheffler going to win. I'll tell you what, I took a couple of bets out. One of them was on Scotty Scheffler because you can get him as good of odds as 500 to 1, which is about the best you're going to get. Most places have him listed as 4 to 1. I got him at 5 to 1. I will also tell you that you can go plus 800 for there to be a
100
for there to be a wire-to-wire champion. So if you feel good about Scotty Scheffler today, him to go wire-to-wire pays out 8 to 1.
One of the things I sent you was a side-by-side of Tony Schiavone. of supposedly the end of WCW and the end of AEW.
I just saw that.
Sponsored by eBay Motors. eBay Motors is here for the ride with the parts you need at the prices you want. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, they're guaranteed to fit your ride the first time, every time, or your money back. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only, exclusions apply.
Take control of your listening experience with Rewind on the Odyssey app. Missed a jaw-dropping moment? No worries.
Odyssey app.
With Rewind, you can relive good moments from Rob Brown, Shane Rome, and more. Don't miss a beat. Just hit Rewind with the Odyssey app on the Fan Upstate. Talk to Robin Lonzo. Call 844-FAN-PHONE.
The Rob Brown Show on your radio. It is the Fan Upstate. Robin Lonzo with you this AM. Be a part of the radio broadcast. The renewal by Anderson of the Carolinas Fan Phone is there for you at 844-FANFONE. That is 844-326-3663. The text line is open this morning at 71307, 71307. If you want to jump on board in that method, you are welcome to do it. So, Augusta National, home of the Masters this weekend, and there is a lot going on. I am really interested. I talked earlier this week about the fact that I feel like now the Live Tour split is doing damage. And I don't mean to the PGA Tour, and I don't mean to the Live Tour. I mean to golf itself, because it has created an issue with both leagues. The Live Tour is effectively nowhere to be seen right now. And by that, I mean, I literally don't know where to go to see it. I've been told it's on the CW, that they're airing Live Tour events. But I am going to tell you that the format did and does nothing for me. 54-hole events, 3-round events, shotgun starts, a team format. I am all for trying new stuff. I am all for trying gimmicks. I'm all for trying format updates. I'm all for trying these things. The problem is, I don't feel as if these updates worked. And sometimes you just got to scrap it and do what people are used to. Change is difficult for most people. Change is a difficult concept because we, as human beings, as Homo sapiens, we have evolved to be pattern-seeking creatures. That's just what we are. Anybody that has to go through a process figures out what their process is and gets into a routine. I got to get up early as hell in the mornings. My morning is now a routine. The alarm goes off at 3:40 in the morning. I almost said 3:40 in the morning. The alarm goes off at 3:40 in the morning. Are you hovering the button just in case I slip?
Yeah, because
Okay.
I mean, it's definitely a struggle for you.
It is.
Yeah,
I have to focus on that word.
and you sound Canadian every time.
The alarm, it goes off at 3:30 in the morning, It goes off at 3:30. I usually get out of bed around 3:35. I spend a couple of minutes pulling my life together. I'm in the shower at 10 till 4. I'm out of the shower at 10 after 4 because shut up, I like a good hot shower. It's one of the luxuries of life. If you don't like a good hot shower, I don't know how.
You have time for movements in there?
That's where I stretch.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
That's as long as, I mean, that's.
Oh, you meant movements like
like
old people movements, not like
No.
do you physically move around?
No, I meant throne time.
Yeah, I'm not like you though. I don't have it like, okay, 6:20, it's time to, time to poop. For me, it's like, gotta poop.
No, you should try even if you can't go. I mean, that's my catching up on social media while my air fryer preheats.
How many of you poop on the clock? Not I mean clock at work. I mean like it's like, oh, it's 5:30 a.m. It's time.
I put it in my schedule to attempt. It's not like I'm always successful. Usually I am, because your body also has a schedule to it. And it feels like if it didn't, every time time changes, you wouldn't be all disrupted. Your body is used to, okay, doing this at this time. Just like I get hungry.
No, I agree with that.
I get hungry at certain times because that's when I always eat. So, I mean,
I get that. I'm just saying, and maybe it's because I don't have a routine when it comes. I eat when I'm hungry, not like, okay, I got to wait another hour and a half. Like it's not, and maybe that's why I'm a fatty, but like if I'm hungry, I eat. That's just how it is. So I maybe that's the reason. All right, this is not about a poop schedule.
It's because you won't conform to any kind of rule.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Other people do it this way, so I'm not.
I mean, that's not why I do it. It's because
I think somewhere deep inside that might be
it's not
part of it.
It's not. It has never been this is how everybody else does it, so I'm not going to do it that way.
Yeah, because if you admitted to that, you admit to being a contrarian, and you would never do such a thing.
No, I'm literally telling you that's not what it is. And you're like, no, Rob. I know Rob better than Rob knows
My
Rob.
parents told me I have to eat breakfast at this time and lunch and then the school told me I have to eat lunch at this time, and then work tells me I have to be off at lunch at this time. Well, screw all of you. I'm gonna do it my way.
There is actually a philosophical principle for people that are night people like me. I'm a night person. I'm in the worst job ever for a night person, but I'm 100% a night person. And there is the belief that so much of your life is dictated by other people and other regulations and requirements of other aspects of your life, that there are people who stay up late not because they should or they want to, but because it is the only time of the day that they fully feel in control of their lives, and they want to maximize that. And I 100% subscribe to that.
Because there's no one to make you conform to.
Correct.
Because it's nighttime and most people are
It's
asleep.
not conform. It's not conform. I choose to do this job. I choose to do this show. I choose to live this life. But in choosing the life, yes, I have to be here at a certain time. I have to be on the air for a certain amount of times. I then have certain things I have to do after the show, off the air for certain times. And then when I get home, I choose to be in a relationship with someone that I love. But as a consequence of that, there are certain things that I have to do. I have to do stuff around the house. I have to help out with this, that, and the other. And so when she goes to bed at 8 o'clock and I go into the bro cave, because she 100% is on a I'm in bed at 8:30 schedule. When I go back in the bro cave, it is the couple of hours a day where I'm in charge of me. I get to decide, all right, am I watching basketball? Am I playing video games? Am I playing guitar? Like, what am I doing? It's up to me. And I'm going to maximize that because it's the only time of my day where I'm in control. I like the philosophy. All right, this is not what this is about. So
I don't know. You just shared something about yourself that the listeners now know.
I did.
The ones that are up.
And if any of you ever wonder if you are up at 4:45 in the morning, you now know Lonzo's pooping right then on the spot.
Not at 4:45. Right? It would be right around 4:07.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
That's where I'm at.
If you find yourself up in the morning at 4:07, and the next time that you look at your watch and it's 4:07 a.m. as you're getting ready for work, you can go somewhere right now, this very second. The great one is having a great one.
Monday through Friday, and usually finish up somewhere between 20 to 22.
You have a 15-minute poop?
Again, I'm multitasking. I'm catching up on social media. I'm sending you a bunch of stuff that you won't use. It's things like that.
15 minutes.
I make sure that I have schedules for certain things so I can just go absolutely crazy and do whatever I want outside of those schedules.
Bro, like, do you use the whole 15 minutes? Is it like D pants to wipe is 15 on the dot?
Here's the thing. So why force yourself? I mean, you let things go as they will.
Yes, but I'm not the one saying it.
Rob, a good portion of people will sit on the throne till their legs don't work.
I don't know. All right, that's enough. All right, that's enough. That's enough. We're even crossing lines for me. All right. Point here is people have a pattern. They like, I'm going to regret using this word, regularity. All right? They like their routine. And it is okay to shift routines, but I think it's something you have to do gradually. If I went, for instance, when we move from the early morning to the early morning, the shift in routine to waking up at 3:45 in the morning was a shock. It took me a while. Even though I had done it in the past, I had gotten so comfortable in the 9 to noon time slot routine that the jump to, no, you don't get up at 6 a.m. anymore. You are now way at work at 6 a.m. It was a shock to the system.
It took me a while to calculate the exact amount of time I'm going to get to sleep before I get up to get here at the time I want to get here.
I'll be real. I'm still not used to it.
Took me a week.
Yeah.
And then I had everything down. So.
I'm still in a weird spot about it. So when it came to the Live Tour, as we come full circle back around. Hey, speaking of poop, when it comes to the Live Tour.
Way to remember and find your way back.
I need you to know the brain was cooking for a minute. I'm like, all right, where were we? Got it. When it comes to the Live Tour, they tried something new. That something new did not stick with golf fans. I think it was because it was such a shock. And again, I don't care about the guys wearing shorts on tour. I don't care. I don't care about the shotgun start. That doesn't bother me. It's more along the lines of just the format of a shorter golf tournament that leads to, in my opinion, less drama down the stretch. They're playing at golf courses that I am not super familiar with. When I watch Augusta and they go, here's Rory McIlroy. He trails the leaders by 3 strokes as he enters Amen Corner. I know Amen Corner. I've been watching Amen Corner since I was literally a child. I know this course. I know where the tough shots are. I know what happens if he slices or fades off the box. I know where the next right and the next wrong shot are. And I can predict and enjoy and be involved with that. When these guys on Live Tour are playing over in Dubai, I don't know a damn thing about it. So there's no place. Somebody once pointed out that the things we like the most are things we can interject ourselves into. Everything's wrestling. Who are the most over megastars of all time? People who have lives that we kind of wish we could have. We all kind of wish we could be Ric Flair and be a limousine riding, jet flying, Rolex wearing son of a gun. We all kind of wish, at least not me, but like at least a lot of us wish we could be stone cold and hit our boss in the head with a hospital bedpan. It's people we connect to, people we can see ourselves in. We like things we can inject ourselves into. Why do we like video games? Because we're like, dude, wouldn't it be dope if? I wish I could do this. These are all things we connect to. I can't connect with the guys on the Live Tour. I think part of it is probably the lizard brain in the back of the head going, they're making so much money doing this versus the PGA Tour where it really felt, even though it wasn't, because everybody on the PGA Tour is doing it for money too, but it always felt like with the PGA Tour, it was guys who love golf. With the Live Tour, it's not. It feels like guys that were willing to blow up golf for millions upon millions of dollars. I want it. I would do the same thing, but I can't put myself into that mind space. And then you change the format of everything I love, and then you play it on courses I've never heard of before. it separates me from a sport that I love. It separates me from athletes that in their old lives, I kind of felt like I knew. I was always a Bubba Watson guy because Bubba's from where I'm from. He's from Baghdad, Florida. That's 20 minutes outside of Pensacola. I always kind of felt like I kind of connected with Bubba. And then Bubba took Live Tour stuff, and it's like, I got nothing in common with this guy, even though we're from the same place. I got nothing from this guy. So I'm interested to see, to segue to where I was ultimately going with this. am interested to see what the television ratings look like for this Masters. Because there is the drama with the Live Tour guys. Greg Norman, the president of Live Tour, is at the Masters as a paying fan. He just showed up. You know what this is? It's the invasion angle. He bought a ticket. He's the rebel. He's the bad guy. He's the head rebel. And he just showed up. Hey, boys, I'm here. I'm here.
If they didn't want him there, they could have just not sold him a ticket.
How? Private guy? I mean, I guess they could have said, no, you're not. You're barred from the course.
Well,
but
if he didn't pay with cash, then he probably used his card. So
the PGA,
nope.
The PGA Tour is not in control of tickets to the event. Augusta National is. If Augusta wants him there, he can be there. And if you're Augusta, the ones who actually run the TV broadcast as well, hell yeah, I want that guy there.
Does his mere presence cause such disruption that people are going to golf bad? I mean, how many people are going to even notice unless they throw a camera on where he's at? Again,
I don't think it has any impact on the players. It's all about the drama. It's all about the drama. We got this big thing going on with Tony Khan and Triple H and AEW and WWE. How interesting is it if on tomorrow night, Friday Night SmackDown, the camera pans and there's Tony Khan 3 rows deep watching from ringside? Does he have any impact on the show? Not really. But you go,
he might learn something. But yeah, other than that.
We're coming to that later on. So with all of that being said, I'm interested to see what the television numbers for the Masters look like. I'm interested to see how the fans feel. Are the fans as invested as they've been in years gone by? Because I think, especially after all the talk of the merger, a merger that, by the way, never came through. After all the talk of the merger possibility between the PGA Tour and the Live Tour, I kind of feel like the drama has gone away a little bit. It doesn't really feel like PGA Tour v. Live Tour anymore. It feels like there's 2 separate entities that have both kind of accepted their positioning, 2 separate entities that have both kind of accepted where they stand in the land of golf. I think you've got players probably on both sides that are very happy with the decisions that they made. And I think you got players on both sides that probably regret the decision that they made. I am sure there are some Live Tour guys this week that are probably regretting that they took the money and ran woo to go over to the Live Tour. And I'm sure there are guys on the PGA Tour that went, damn, I wish I would have gone and taken a 9-figure paycheck from the Live Tour to move over.
I don't think you ever regret that kind of money.
I think once you have that money, future money on top of it is just kind of icing at that point. And you look at it and go, am I really better off than I was on the PGA Tour? Even though I'm making more money. For some people, the answer is yes. Not for everybody, but for some people. For instance, right now, if they came to me and said, Rob Brown, we are going to pay you, we're going to give you a 50% raise, but we need you to move to host in Albuquerque, New Mexico. There's a very good chance that if I took that money, I'd get to Albuquerque, New Mexico, and 6 months in, even though I'm better off financially, I would go, oh, why am I here?
How's your Spanish?
I don't know if you know this. Albuquerque's in New Mexico, not Old Mexico.
Yes, I'm aware of that.
Okay. Pretty sure it's still in New Mexico.
Yep. How's your Spanish?
I mean, not even passable, I think.
if you're close to, if you're down closer to where another country is, chances are there are going to be other people who speak that language also. So
yeah, no, for sure. But also, I've been to San Antonio. I could host there too. Don't speak Spanish. I can ask for a beer, and that's about, and a nap. I learned the important stuff.
Dos Equis, or is that what you do?
Cerveza. Yo quiero cerveza. Por favor.
Okay.
So I don't even know if that's right. I got you're saying from the Taco Bell commercials. I don't even know if that's right.
That sounded like a Chihuahua saying that. I don't know why.
So the point here is, this Masters, I think, every Masters is important to golf, without a doubt. But I think this Masters is as, if not more important than any other one. And I think it is in large part because the future of golf, and when I say future, I'm talking about the LIV Tour, the PGA Tour, potential merger, potential further split. I think all of this can and will be impacted by what we as Americans do. The ratings are going to be fine because there's no matter what's happening with the PGA Tour and the LIV Tour, I'm watching the Big Four. I'm watching the Big Four. I'm watching TPC. I'm watching the Open Championship. I'm watching the Masters. I'm watching the U.S. Open. I'm watching these events, no matter what. No matter who's there and who's not, I'm watching them. But if the Masters numbers come down at the same time that the PGA tournament numbers elsewhere are coming down, at the same time that the LIV Tour, I don't even know where to watch it. If we are ever going to push towards some sort of unification that gives us the best golf, we are not getting the best golf with a watered-down PGA field everywhere except Augusta. We are not getting the best golf with a 56-hole tournament over here that's on a network nobody knows where to find. We're just not. And so if the numbers for, honestly, either direction, if the numbers are a big spike at the Masters or if the numbers for the Masters are down way more than normal, what it's going to say is golf fans at this point are disillusioned with the sport. They are turned off by everything that's going on. They have walked back from this because they don't care about a watered-down product over here where you're not getting the best golfers in the game, and they don't care about the LIV Tour at all. They just don't. So the number on this golf tournament, it means something either way. I'm just intrigued to see how it plays out. So we will talk some more Masters later on in the show. Let's run to a break. We'll come back here in just a minute. My name is Rob Brown. Lonzo is on the ones and twos. The Rob Brown Show rolls on after this. It is the Fan Upstate. Will you throw me in queue real quick so I can listen to this Osprey thing? Oh, never mind.
I am delivering some of the best professional wrestling matches this world has ever seen, bruv. And normally I wouldn't rise to this type of bait. But seeing as the guy that said it is only in the position he's in because he was grinding on the boss's daughter.
Friday night, 4 teenage boys, a pack of fireworks,
I cannot call myself the best wrestler
and a teetering rank suspended over your car have in common.
dynasty until after I pin you in the
Quickly wreak havoc on your soul Friday night. Bundle your home and auto with Progressive for great savings and round-the-clock protection. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company affiliates and other insurers. Not available in states or situations.
If you need full planners to boost your business, but you're on a budget, think Staples. Posters, flyers, signs, and menus for less. Think Staples. Staples can write anything you need to move your business forward. Now at Staples, save $50 on your next purchase of $150 or more. Same-day service available.
Well, someone took the loop off because I had killed it so we wouldn't get flagged, but you know,
The what?
the loop on the video was I put the video up. How do you loop? There it is. I don't know why they keep taking the loop off.
I don't think we're gonna get flagged.
Yeah, he's flagging people right and left. So, according to the internet, so you know, it's got to be true.
Got to be true.
Got to be true. We're in danger. Also, didn't want us to get in bad standing with someone. So I heard Triple H say what he was saying about the grind thing, but I didn't know who he was talking about. Apparently, he thinks it was about him because he was never specific about a person.
Yeah.
So.
The Rob Brown Show carries on. It is the Fan Upstate. I am Rob Brown, the great one Lonzo, with you here as well on a Thursday a.m. Yesterday, we got a little bit into the draft, and we were talking about what teams could be trading up for a quarterback, what teams could be trading down to get away from a quarterback and pick up some stock. We went back and forth. Yesterday afternoon, I was filling on the BetQL network alongside Nick Costos on You Better You Bet. And I got the opportunity to have a conversation, great one, with Brian Baldinger, Odyssey insider, former NFL player, draft analyst. And we were going back and forth and having some fun with Baldy, and we were giving our thoughts on different players and getting his perspective on them and giving our thoughts on specific teams and getting his thoughts on what their draft future might look like. And the conversation came up about the top three quarterbacks. The conversation came up about Caleb Williams, about Jaden Daniels, and about Drake May. And Brian Baldinger, NFL analyst, expert, and insider from Odyssey and the NFL Network and a bunch of other outlets, Baldy said, Rob Brown, first off, you are very, very handsome and clearly no ball.
Wow.
It was, honestly, I blushed.
Did you clip that?
It was incredible. I didn't. I should have.
Wow. So there's no way I could go back
now
and
you'll just have to take my word
find
for it
that.
that he said it.
Okay, because, you know, I would love to go back and find that.
He said, Rob Brown, not only are you handsome and do you know ball like no other? He said, but I do have to push back on one thing. And I was not prepared because my thought was, what are you pushing back on? I just asked you to rank the top three quarterbacks, Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, and Drake May. And he said, can I tell you what I've been hearing from NFL circles? And I said, you're Brian Baldinger. Of course you can, Baldy. That's where this is an interview. We ask you questions and you tell us your thoughts. And he said, good, Rob Brown, here's my thought. He said, you aren't going to like it. Nick Costos, you're not going to like it. The overwhelming majority of your audience is not going to like it. He said, do not be shocked if Drake May is not the third quarterback taken off the board. And I went, okay. I mean, I don't know that I would be shocked because I was thinking about Michael Penix Jr. I was thinking about Bo Nix. And I thought it might be a bit of a stretch. But in my head, it said somebody's going to trade up to 3 to start the run of wide receiver. Somebody's going to trade up to 3 to get Marvin Harrison Jr. Maybe there's not any moves that get made. Somebody a little bit lower in the draft. What's your setup here, Baldy? And he said, right now, around NFL circles, in a statement that made me question very briefly my own sanity, he said, there are a lot of teams who currently believe that the third best quarterback on the board is, and based on the setup of this conversation, Lonzo, who do you think Baldy said the third best quarterback on the board is?
JJ McCarthy.
JJ bleeping McCarthy. Now, Baldy's a good dude. He is a certified knower of ball. He is a guy that gets it right more than he gets it wrong, in my opinion. It was everything I had in me not to tell Nate Costos, end this interview right now. Get me off the radio. I can't deal with this. You're telling me JJ McCarthy over Drake May. And he said, let me tell you why. I said, okay. He said, he said, Rob Brown, what's your big reason for JJ McCarthy not being there? And I said, in the biggest games of the year, his coaches didn't trust him to throw the football. In the biggest games of the year, his coaches did not ask him to be a star. And he said, that is correct. That is the biggest concern that is around JJ McCarthy. He said, but let me tell you something. He's still more accurate than Drake May. He still throws a better ball than Drake May. Drake May is where Drake May is because of his frame, because of his size, because of his speed, because of his athleticism. He said it's not necessarily because of his arm. He said Drake May, had he not had the year that he had in 2022, based on his year of 2023, would be a 4th or 5th round guy. He said, but they're going, all right, he did it back in 2022. He said that doing it when you're not on the map is one thing. Doing it the next year after you place yourself on the map, run it back. Doing it a second time, that's hard. That's what a pro caliber quarterback does. And Drake May did not do it. The numbers not just weren't the same, but they were statistically way less good. He said with JJ McCarthy, you know what you're getting. You're getting a game manager style quarterback, but you're getting a game manager style quarterback with a more accurate football, with a more consistent football. And I said, but Baldy, I just told you, the coaches at Michigan didn't trust him. And he said, is it that they didn't trust him, or is that they built an offense around him to open up the field for him? And then after they did that, they realized, oh, we have got a first-round draft pick running back as well. I said, doesn't it still play out that they didn't ask him to make big plays? And he goes, let me ask you this. He said, if you're going to throw the football versus run the football, what's the situation in which more bad things can happen? I said, throwing the football. He said, exactly. So if you've got a running back that can get you 6 yards a tote like Blake Corum, and you've got a quarterback who can get you 6 yards a pass like JJ McCarthy, is it really bad coaching to pass the ball more than, or to run the ball more than passing? I said, I don't know. It kind of feels like it. And he goes, yeah. Hey, Rob Brown, what did Michigan do last year? And I said, let me text Lonzo and ask him, but I'm pretty sure they won the Natty. And he said, exactly. He said, so my question is, if they got to a point 7-8 games into the year where they realized that having Blake Corum run more than JJ McCarthy pass was going to win them more games than it lost them, and it's more about Blake Corum than JJ McCarthy, doesn't it make sense that you go with more Blake Corum than JJ McCarthy? And I said, no, Baldy, no, it doesn't. And he said, I get what you're saying, but that's not how NFL teams feel. He said they feel like JJ McCarthy could have done dramatically more if he was asked, but he wasn't asked to because they had the offense predicated on the run, and they knew if we save JJ McCarthy's arm for the biggest spots, it also means that defense he's throwing against are keyed in on the run. And if they are keyed in on the run, that it makes his life even easier to throw a good, accurate ball like he can do when the game is on the line. Lonzo, do you buy any of that?
No, I do not.
Yeah. I'm having a hard time. Baldy's a real smart guy. I'm having a hard time with that. Hey, Brian Baldinger's going to join the show next Monday, by the way.
Cool.
So we'll ask him about it. I'll run this by him one more time and see if his opinion changed after he had a conversation with me, certified knower of ball. You know who else knows ball? Lonzo. That's why he's going to tell you about all the ball things in this Sports Flash.
Starting with baseball, the saga of Shohei Ohtani, or more appropriately, his interpreter, continues. Ippei Mizuhara is reportedly in conversations, all right, you can leave now, with federal authorities to plead guilty to charges of theft of millions of dollars. Mitsuhara is, according to ESPN, under investigation by the IRS, Department of Homeland Security, and the U.S. Attorney's Office of California. The New York Times is reporting that Mitsuhara may have stolen more than the $4.5 million initially reported. Weather has already impacted the Masters golf tournament in Augusta. The tournament announced this morning at 5 a.m. that the first round of tee times are delayed and will not start before 9 a.m. However, no official start time has yet to be announced. Stay tuned to this here program, and we'll keep you posted. Tune in this afternoon from 3 to 7 p.m. for our brand new local show, Wire to Wire. Cole Bryson and Diesel get you up to date on the latest local and national sports news, all Wire to Wire. The Cordell and Cordell Jam Cam.
Hour number 2 of the Rob Brown Radio Show goes now. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Great to have you. Rob the Great One Lonzo with you on a Thursday morning, a Masters crossed fingers Thursday morning, as we wait to see what time the Masters. They will tee off today. They will tee off today. We just don't know when. The biggest question that I have for the Masters today is you know what? This is going to be an item on the water cooler cheat sheet, so we should probably just dive right into that. Ladies and gentlemen, it is after 7 o'clock in the morning. It is almost time for you to get your happy butt into the office to punch in, to respond to those passive-aggressive emails you got overnight asking you why aren't you up at 1 in the morning working. It is time for you to deal with Sandy, who did not participate in the group project and is now asking why she's not getting credit for it.
Stinking Sandy.
She's so obnoxious, dude. I can't stand her.
And we know that's not your real hair color.
Yeah, Sandy. It is almost time for work, which is bad news. But the good news is that means it's almost time for your first break. You're going to walk down. You're going to fill up that coffee cup with the liquid of your choice, preferably one that won't get you fired. But hey, live your best life. I support you. You're going to walk down by your coworkers. You're going to stand around. And if you're listening to this show, it means more than likely you're going to talk sports. And if you want to talk sports, you got to know what's going on in the world of sports. And if you've got to know what is going on in the world of sports, we got you covered with this.
No kind of Sandy, you're wrong.
And it's the water cooler cheat sheet. The top 3 sports stories that you need to know for today, April 11th, 2024. Let us begin, my friends, with item number 1. Item number 1 is where I was going just mere minutes ago. And then I thought, oh, well, this is item number 1. I should probably just start the water cooler cheat sheet. And, well, here we are. The start to the Masters at Augusta National Golf Course is currently delayed. How long? That's a wonderful question. We don't know yet. What we do know is that at 5 a.m., there was an update from the Masters. The tournament update was that the public parking and gates would not open before 9 a.m. and that the first players off the tee would not strike a golf ball until after 9 a.m. How late? We don't know yet. The tournament is going to try to at least get most of the first round off the tee and underway. As I mentioned earlier, that is in large part because of the desire to make sure that the championship round still takes place on Thursday. There's good news and there's bad news. The good news is that if you look at the weather.com satellite imagery up till now, and then the predicted storm path after now, it does appear like most of the rain is scheduled to clear out of the area around 10 o'clock in the morning. Obviously, you've got to factor in some time for the tournament course management to get out there and fix up anything that needs to be fixed up, to remove any standing water that is in high traffic areas of shots, and to help get the greens dried up. Now, the Masters does have subterranean green drying systems underneath their greens, so that won't be as big of a deal as it might be in other courses. However, it is still a process that they will have to go through. The bad news is that despite the fact that predicted rainfall in the area should let up around 10 to 11 a.m. this morning, CNN Weather is projecting that showers and storms are forecast up to as late as 2 o'clock this afternoon. Now, if it gets to be 2 in the afternoon and they can't play yet, that's when I think you could see the first round postponed until tomorrow, which of course would mean that we will have a Masters Championship Monday, not Sunday. If they can get enough guys out on the course today, even if a chunk of them do not finish, if they can create a world in which maybe 30% of the field has to go off at butt crack of dawn tomorrow morning to get the end of their first round in, to then head back to the clubhouse, have a turn dog and a brewski, as professional athletes like myself do, and then roll back out in the afternoon to shoot their second 18, then that is what they'll do. Because again, getting these guys out on Monday is still the on Sunday is still the preferred course of action. So we'll see how this plays out. Like I mentioned, the update from 5 a.m. was that the first round will not begin before 9 a.m. I suspect that is, by the way, 1 hour after it was originally scheduled to start. I have wagered, based on what I've looked at so far this morning, the most likely result is that we will probably see first golfers going off around noon. That's my guess. That is not official. That is speculation from me. That is based on the predicted forecast, based on what the satellite looks like right now, adding in an hour to 2 hours to get the course ready for play. Because there is one thing the Masters cares about more than anything else, and that is the mystique, the magic that is translated through the television broadcast. And they are not going to want to show that course with standing water around it. They don't want to have that look out there in public. So we'll see what happens. We'll see where it goes. But as of right now, no earlier than 9 a.m. My guess is going to be probably closer to noon. We'll keep you updated as we get those updates moving forward. Let's get to item number 2. As Ted Lasso once said, as May in the show Ted Lasso once said, it's the hope that kills you. And sports are a wonderful place for hope. Sports are a place that provides you with tons of hope. Sports are a place where hope runs wild, brother. I find myself in a tough spot because on one hand, the Charlotte Hornets aren't good. The problem is I suddenly have hope. The Hornets last night knocked off Trae Young and the Atlanta Hawks 115-114. That included outscoring the Hawks by 16 in the fourth quarter, 38-22. That led them to a 1-point victory. The hope for me comes in the name Brandon Miller. The hope for me comes in the name of a former Alabama Crimson Tider. 27 points on 9 of 17 from the floor, 5 of 11 deep, and going a perfect 4 for 4 from the stripe. He also had 3 boards, a couple of assists, and just 1 turnover on the evening. Brandon Miller can ball. Brandon Miller can play. And there's really no spot on the floor, with the exception of directly underneath the rim, that Brandon Miller can't score from. I loved watching this kid play last night. I have enjoyed watching Brandon Miller play the last couple of games because without LaMelo Ball, Brandon Miller has started to get much more comfortable in his role as a shooting forward. He has started to get much more comfortable handling the basketball. He has started to get much more comfortable working the ball into and out of different positions on the floor. I have told you already, I got a lot of hope for the future of this franchise. It comes in the form of having a very young core, a core that I have watched the last couple of games post LaMelo Ball really start to gel around each other. Miles Bridges, Brandon Miller is in that mix. Grant Williams, acquired from Boston, is only 25 years old. He is in that mix. You add LaMelo back. You let Brandon Miller keep balling out. You let Grant, a Charlotte guy, continue to be a guy. And then you add in the fact that this team has got a war chest of first-round picks over the next couple of years, acquired via trades around the league. And all of a sudden, I have hope that there might be good basketball in Charlotte. This team, I think, has done a real good job. Got to get the head coaching search right. Got to find somebody who clicks with the youngins, with the Utes. But I like the direction that they are pointed in right now. And Brandon Miller put that on full display last night with a win over a returning Trae Young. Trae had his double-double in that game. The question is, can you overcome that? And the answer last night for Charlotte was, you're damn right you can. I love it. Let's get to item number 3. I don't know if this plays or not here. I don't know if this matters around here or not, but it is an interesting and intriguing story to me. Yesterday, John Calipari was officially introduced as the new head coach of the Arkansas Razorbacks. Of course, he leaves Kentucky behind. He takes a decreased salary to be the HC and replace Eric Musselman in Arkansas. Calipari said, and I quote, "Kentucky is the bluest of blue. There's only a few schools like that, and I hate to tell you, Arkansas is one of them." Yes, we all know the historic contributions to college basketball of the Arkansas Razorbacks. Calipari makes a move over to get out of Kentucky. Does this story matter to y'all? And the reason I ask this question is not so much about Kentucky or John Cal or Arkansas or Eric Musselman and USC, where he is coaching now. The reason I ask is because this is a big story in basketball markets. It's a big story in markets where basketball is considered one of the primary sports. And I'm wondering, after the success of Brad Brownell and the Clemson Tiger basketball team this year, after the success of Lamont Paris and the South Carolina Gamecock basketball program this year, after the success of Bob Ritchie and the Furman Paladin basketball program over the past couple of years, is this becoming a basketball market? As a host, I'm intrigued. As a host and a basketball lover, I like to think so. I like to think that a lot has happened over the past couple of years that would be pushing this market towards being more basketball invested. And I think every school in our map, combined with, as I mentioned a minute ago, my maybe not undeserved hope in the future of the Charlotte Hornets basketball program. My genuine hope is that when you combine all of those successes, that this is a basketball market. Clemson just made a run to the Elite Eight under Brad Brownell in a year in which I was told Brad's going to choke and get fired. He ultimately lost to Alabama, a Final Four team. He ultimately lost to a team that I genuinely believe was the second best team in probably the second or third best basketball conference in America. It was a good game. It wasn't like they got racked in that game. That wasn't a choke. That was just a loss to a good team. South Carolina, yeah, you got bounced in the first round by Oregon, which I told you, don't be surprised if it happens. It's a good Pac-12 team. In the swan song of that conference, they had a little extra motivation to try to carry the Pac-12 flag further into that tournament. It's a good Oregon team. You got bumped in the first round, but you got bumped. I don't know if you heard this before. South Carolina was projected to finish last in the conference. They did not. They finished T2 in the conference. Recruiting looks like it's going very well for this basketball program. I'm intrigued to see what the portal looks like for this basketball program. A lot of success for all of the schools and the franchises within our market. Will that do anything to push basketball forward? Will that do anything to make basketball more popular in the area? Will that do anything to create a world where next year when the season tips off, Rob Brown is going to get more text and phone calls and emails and tweets from people going, hey, can we get some basketball updates? Can we get some basketball news and information? I hope it does. I hope it does, because I've told y'all, I think you lean into this. By the way, I didn't even mention Don Staley winning a damn national championship a few days ago. I hope that with all those things combined,
Probably should have led with that.
I probably should have led with that. I hope with all those things combined that it does help force this area to move closer to basketball. But I am asking y'all now, does the success of Clemson hoops, of South Carolina hoops, men's and women's, of the Charlotte Hornets, of the Atlanta Hawks, who will be a play-in team, does the success of Furman Paladins under Bob Ritchie, does the success of every school and franchise within our little coverage map, does it turn you on to basketball more? Because let's call a spade a spade. I understand we're in a football market. Daddy ain't dumb. Mama didn't raise no fool. I understand that we are in a football market for sure. I would never say anything to the controversy, to the contrary, which would cause controversy. I would never say anything to the contrary. But my question is, if we're being legit, the Panthers are bad. I think they'll be better, but they're bad. The Clemson Tigers have disappointed their fans 2 years in a row. South Carolina failed to make a bowl game. With the exception of Furman, every other team in the area has not been good lately. So I'm wondering if that will lead to a transition to not a market in which basketball takes over football, because that's just never going to happen, but a market in which next year you guys are more apt for more basketball coverage. I'm very curious.
Nah. Did you see Cole was at the spring game for Clemson and how many people were there? People are ready for college football and for the NFL to be back.
Oh, for sure. Again, I am not asking if this is going to create a world where basketball overtakes football. Obviously, it's not. Again, I'm not an idiot. What I'm asking is, does this create a world in which basketball elevates itself in the echelon of topics that we cover on this station, of topics that are covered by the TV market, by the TV stations in the market? Is this something that next year, because I agree, I do not think for a second college basketball, certainly not the NBA, is going to overcome college football. But does it show up more next year? Because there's a lot of great basketball in the area. All right, let's take a break. We'll come back here in just a minute. Rashad Beard scheduled to join us at 8:40 this morning. Still on the lookout for him. We'll let you know if we get him locked in. 9:20, it's Fight Club. 8:20, we're going to go clock in and lock in. Haven't done that for a while. Ordinarily, that's a Friday segment, but we're going to do it on a Thursday. I'll give you my best and most favoritist bets for Masters weekend. That's all coming up on the Rob Brown Show and the Fan Upstate.
what's up.
What's up? That is Raw Tag Team Champion and friend of the show, R-Truth. Just so we're all on the same page here.
I'd like to be on a page that has no pain, please.
On a page that has no pain?
Yes.
All right, guys, stepping away for just a minute. Y'all stay right there. We'll be right back. Lonzo, and you. Let's talk a little bit more about the Masters. It is the big event of the weekend. If you're not a golf fan, if you're not a Masters fan, well, you're just going to have to hang out and let the dorks play for a little while, okay? It's no different than anything else. You'll get your time in the sun. Just chill for a few minutes. You'll be okay. It is, without a doubt, the biggest golf event of the year on the calendar. So, yesterday spent a lot of time talking Masters alongside Nick Costos on You Better You Bet, my guy PJ Glasser. I'm going to be on this evening with BetMGM tonight. We'll be talking about the Masters again. We've talked about the Masters here on this show, and we'll continue to the rest of the day and tomorrow and probably Monday, because the pace we're on now, we may actually have the Masters being played on Monday, but if nothing else, we'll have a champion on Sunday to talk about. there's a couple of things that I want to get to. The first is Scotty Scheffler. Now, I understand that many of you don't care about the gambling side of all this, and that's fine. As I have told you before, even if you are not into gambling on sports, and that's totally fine and legitimate, I still think as a fan who doesn't gamble, it's important, it's interesting to keep an eye on the lines, on the numbers, on the Vegas odds. And I think it is important to do so because it can tell you a lot about what is expected to happen on the golf course. Here's one thing that I found very interesting. Scotty Scheffler, who is right now striking the ball as well as anybody we've seen since Tiger in his prime. I've heard that a number of times, and I got real upset with it. But I came to the realization that the reason I got upset with it was the same reason that old heads got upset when people were comparing Michael Jordan to Oscar Robertson. It is the same reason people got upset when people started comparing Kobe Bryant to Michael Jordan, the same reason that people got upset when folks started comparing LeBron to Kobe. It is because, and I stand firm in this belief, it is because whatever is best when you are in your puppy love phase of whatever it is, the thing that we're talking about, you're always going to think that was the best it ever was. Music is the go-to example. It just is. If you are from the 70s, you think that 70s psychedelic rock was the best rock. If you are from the 80s, you think glam rock, metal rock, hair rock was the best rock. If you're from the 90s, you think grunge and alternative was the best rock. If you are from the 2000s, you thought that alt rock, mood rock, emo rock is the best rock. If you're from the 2010s, you don't know what rock and roll is because nobody plays it anymore. Do you see my point? I think the gut reaction I had to the conversation about Scotty Scheffler was because I fell into that trap. When I was a kid, when I was coming into my love for golf, I say when I was a kid, it was 24 years ago. I was in my early teens, but it was when I was coming into my love for golf. Tiger Woods was the guy. He was the best in the world. He was better than you, and you knew it. Now, the discussion was even raging back then because Tiger was coming to his own. Tiger was dominating everybody. Tiger was entering tournaments with a full field as a betting favorite to the tune of minus or even money. And of course, what do we hear? He'll never be Jack. He'll never be Arnie. He'll never be so-and-so. That's what we heard.
He still isn't Jack.
I mean, again.
If you're talking about winning majors, right?
I mean, if that's the metric you use, correct. He's not Jack.
Okay.
But, again, sports is nuanced. Conversations are nuanced. This is why Lonzo and I have had plenty of fights about the fact that rings do not a legacy make alone. Because there's a million variables. This is the conversation that went on about Hank and the Babe for so many years. Yeah, it's real easy to be the best in the game when half of the world isn't allowed to play it. I make the argument Tiger eventually became a victim of his own success because all of a sudden golf became cool. And Tiger wasn't out there competing anymore just against older golfers. He was out there competing with an entire new generation of golfers that he inspired to become golfers.
See, I'm not the biggest golf fan, but I disagree with you there. Tiger's worst enemy was himself. It had nothing because golf, you're not really competing with other people. You're competing with yourself. He could not handle his own demons, and that brought about all the problems that he's had. And I don't think it has anything to do with any competition because he didn't have any when he was on top of his game. but he let personal problems and other things get in the way, and that caused his downfall.
Again, part of the conversation. That's why I say conversations in sports are way more nuanced than a lot of people give it credit for. You are 100% correct. A lot of what happened with Tiger was on Tiger. But at the same time,
because just one more thing, because if it's about the competition, well, the next Tiger should have already happened, and it hasn't. And that's been a problem for PGA as far as they groom people. This is the next Tiger. This is the next Tiger. And it's not. There's no one who stood out the way he did just because of his game and how good he was. No one can do that on a consistent basis.
I agree. Again, part of why when people said Scotty Scheffler is playing golf as well as Tiger in his prime, my reaction was, get out of here. Knock it off with that. Not a chance. Because of how head over shoulders he was better than everybody else. Then I went back and I have been looking at Scotty Scheffler. Scotty Scheffler's strokes gain numbers are absolutely better than everybody else's. And I'm talking about at every aspect of the golf course. Off the tee, he is striking the ball greens in regulation as well or better than everybody else on tour. Mid to long range shots, his strokes gain number is as good as anybody else. On the putting green, which is where tournaments like the Masters, frankly, are won and lost, his strokes gain number is as good as anybody else in golf. It is kind of ridiculous for a guy to enter a tournament like the Masters. It is kind of ridiculous to jump into a tournament that is as prestigious as the Masters. It is kind of ridiculous to enter a field that has any given year around 90 of the world's best players of a sport. And to be a 3-1 favorite. To be a plus 300 favorite. Now, again, I understand I understand that it's golf. I understand it is a sport, as Lonzo pointed out correctly and appropriately. It is a sport that is, frankly, as much about competing with yourself, being better than yourself, beating yourself, than it is about beating the other 89 guys that are going to be out there this weekend. That is absolutely correct. But man, to have people believe in you the way that, because it's not just that he's a 3-1 favorite going into this tournament. It's that he's a 3-1 favorite and he's getting about a quarter of the handle on him. That means that roughly 1 out of every 4 bets for winners of a tournament that has 90-ish dudes playing in it, 1 out of every 4 bets is on this cat. That is a silly number. It's a number that, frankly, almost doesn't make sense. 1 out of every 4 bets on a guy in a field that has 90 people in it. Let me put it this way. The Boston Celtics locked up the entire Eastern Division about 2 weeks ago. About 2 weeks ago. The Boston Celtics lost a total of 3 games at home this year. The Boston Celtics, in locking up the Eastern Division about 3 weeks ago, ensured that every game is going to be played, well, every series is going to have home court advantage in Boston, Massachusetts. And yet, Boston does not have 25% of the Eastern Conference Division champions bet coming in on them, and they have been playing the best basketball of any team in the association for months now.
All right, you're talking about odds and betting. I am curious. Which sport for Rob Brown is the easiest to bet on? Where does golf rank in there?
Golf and NASCAR are two sports that I acknowledge it's tough to bet on, and it's a quantity game more than it is a quality pick game. It is very tough to pick winners in golf because you can sit here and I can look at shots gained in different parts of the field and how those things play out at Augusta. I think you've got to have a very, very good shots gained on the green number. Your driving accuracy number has to be ridiculously high. And I can talk about all those things, but at the end of the day, how in the hell do you project a meltdown? How in the hell do you project a guy going out there and falling apart because the pressure's too much? I'll give you the example. Rory McIlroy. Rory McIlroy is a guy that every year finds himself in contention at Augusta, and every year on Sunday, for whatever reason, finds a way on 4 or 12 to stick one in the water or stick one in the woods and never recover. And all of a sudden, the guy who went like -2, -4, -6 turns around and goes +4 on the last day. Is there a way to project that? When he's sitting at, I don't know his number off the top of my head, I want to say it's like 16-1, and make a play on Rory McIlroy? I mean, the easiest thing is to say, no, you stay away from that guy. You stay away from that guy because that guy has always got bad juju on Sunday. Tell you what I have done. I have placed a couple of bets on Rory to turn in under par rounds, 2 or more under par on Thursday and Friday. Why? Because he plays great out the high. Plays hot out the gate. Golf's a tough one. NASCAR's a tough one because, again, I can go out there and do all the research in the world and look up all the history and the stats and the number and pit crew speed and speed on straightaways versus whatever. But at the end of the day, what I can't predict is that Corey LaJoie is going to have Ricky Stenhouse put him into the wall in 3 and end his day.
Are you allowed to bet if you're a golfer? I know it's regulated everywhere else.
No.
Okay.
There are no professional sports that I'm aware of that do not have anti-gambling rules about their players.
Because it seems like it would be one of the easier games to fix if you bet on
100%.
yourself.
100%. You would be banned for life. You certainly would from Augusta, but yes, you would get banned for life. And speaking of, we got to talk about Adam Silver because he was talking about the Jonte Porter gambling scandal that's taking place right now with the Raptors. And he said yesterday that barring that man from life from the NBA is on the table. So we'll get to that later on in the show. So all of that being said, I got offended that they were trying to say Scottie Scheffler was playing Tiger Woods in his prime style golf. All of the numbers say that he is. Can he maintain that? Can he bring that to this course? Will this dude stay as hot as he has been? He is firmly atop the world golf rankings right now. He had, until it ended the other day when he went par, 28 consecutive rounds under par before he finally shot a par. Tee to green, he might be the best on the tour. And his putting strokes gained has skyrocketed over the past 6 months or so. At the Masters, your winner always ranks amongst the leaders in greens and regulation. Do you want to take a stab at who the leader in GIR is on tour right now? That's right, Scottie Scheffler. Then you take the Live Tour guys. The Live Tour guys, they don't play 72-hole tournaments anymore. How will that impact them? If they're in contention and now all of a sudden they got to go play one more round than they are used to playing on any given weekend. They are used to playing a much more relaxed golf tournament than the Masters. Will the energy, the adrenaline, the pressure of playing at Augusta National take a couple of those guys out of the mix? Here's what I'm driving at as well. There's a lot of interesting questions and storylines surrounding this event that go a lot deeper than who's going to win, can Tiger make the cut? We will talk about Tiger later in the show. But there's a lot more than who's going to win and will they make the cut. There's Live Tour drama. There's television drama. There's obviously the height of the weather now taking place at Augusta National. This tournament on paper should be incredible. Does it turn out that way? Does it turn out that way? We'll talk more Masters later on in the radio broadcast, but we do have some other stuff that we need to get to on the show today. I've seen a lot of questions that have come out in the text line and on the stream, which you can join us at facebook.com/thefanupstate, twitter.com/thefanupstate by searching and subscribing to The Rob Brown Show on Twitch and YouTube. Let's run to a break. We'll come back. We will wrap up the first hour of the radio program next. Nope, second hour of the radio program. Numbers are hard. Shut up. I'm tired and excited about the Masters. The Rob Brown Show rolls on after this. It's the Fan Upstate.
So bad. No.
Yeah, I was wondering what you're thinking.
Yeah, it just, I mean, they both pulled up at the same time. You got an entire parking lot. Yeah, and then neither one could get the stuff out of, they work at the same spot. Neither one could get their stuff out of, so they're like crammed. And look how many spaces are open.
The whole parking
That's
lot's
just so
empty, boy.
stupid.
That's hilarious.
We should park in those spots just so they have to park somewhere. I won't park over there because if they do that, I wouldn't be able to get my car.
Bundle auto and home, renters or condo, and save with Progressive. Download the Odyssey app, search the Fan Upstate, and listen anywhere on your phone. I'm Chuck Sanders, that's the Sports Flash for Fan Upstate.
It's a very short break, by the way.
Okay.
Looking at the Porto and Porto Gem Cab at the roadwork I-85 in Pelham Road, we're not seeing a significant slowdown yet this morning. As you hit the mile mark of 54 at the Pelham exit, drop the low approach speed because of signs, barriers, and barriers. Highway 25 Whitehorse still has some slow spots northbound for a couple of miles approaching I-85. From the news stop, 98.9 WORD Traffic. I'm Bill Brooks on the Fan Upstate.
Lowe's knows pros need the right tools for every job. That's why we sell the largest in-store selection of Klein tools anywhere. Find new items like the self-leveling green laser level for just $159.98. Plus, shop the Connect pass-through socket set for $49.98, which you can only find at Lowe's. Shop Klein tools in-store and online today because Lowe's knows tools. Lowe's knows pros.
From the Eagles Market Studio.
Rise and shine, sports fans. Grab your coffee and a jolt of sports on the
The Rob Brown Show continues. It's the Fan Upstate, Robin Lonzo. I want to get more into this later on in the show, but I did want to hit it here as well. ESPN put out a article, blog post, I don't know, whatever. Put up a post on their website. It said now that Nick Saban is gone, and Nick Saban, obviously the greatest coach in the history of college football so far, now that he is gone, now that Jim Harbaugh is out, they listed who they believe to be the next 30 coaches that will shape the college football landscape moving forward. And I'm interested about, I'm intrigued by some of the names on this list and where they fall and how ESPN organized them. And I kind of want your thoughts. They say that right now, the coach with the opportunity to have the greatest impact career long on college football, Lonzo. It's the one I don't have an issue with, Kirby Smart at Georgia.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Ryan Day.
Ryan Day is on the list for sure. He most certainly is not number one, mainly because of the outlandish number of Ohio State fans who have said if he loses to Michigan again, they want him fired, despite the fact that he is going to have you in the playoffs 100% of seasons moving forward.
No Harbaugh excuse this year, though.
Kirby Smart at number one. Of course, he spent 11 seasons under Nick Saban, learning from the Jedi Master, so no shock there.
Wait a minute, how'd Georgia do last year?
Georgia was a Nick Saban away from being in the playoffs once again.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Speaking of Alabama, at number 2 on this list, they have Kalen DeBoer.
What's he done?
A 3-time NAIA national champion by the age of 35, left his alma mater in Sioux Falls in 2010, became an offensive coordinator at Southern Illinois, then Eastern Michigan, Fresno State, Alabama, and as his head coach, as the head coach at Fresno State, had a 10-win season in year 2. Then he went to Washington, 25-3, reached the national title game in his second season in Seattle, immediately got the gig in Alabama after that. That's what he's done.
What's the NAIA? What level is that?
NAIA is, I think, I don't know. Let's look.
I'm pretty sure it's Division II.
I don't even know about this. The National Association of Intercollegiate Athletics.
How many people out there know that? I mean, Diesel knows, but he's like hyper into college. So I get that.
Hyper into college.
Yeah. I mean, his beard quivers when you talk about it.
His beard quivers. Kalen DeBoer, I think this is more about the fact that he is at Alabama, more about the fact that he is in Nick Saban's old office, and maybe most importantly of all, he can just call Nick at any point. If he's got any questions, concerns, considerations, he can ring up old Nicholas Lou Saban in one of his many, many mansions that he owns while he's mad that kids are getting money, and ask questions. By the way, Kalen DeBoer, not even 50 years old yet, which in coaching terms, relatively young. I think he's fine being on that list. I don't know about him being at number 2. They've got Steve Sarkisian at Texas at number 3. I know Steve Sark took this Texas Longhorn football team to the playoffs last year. I get it. Does anybody here believe Steve Sarkisian is a great coach? But does anybody here trust Steve Sarkisian long term? I don't. I think Steve Sarkisian's going to get his ass kicked in the SEC.
He's a name. When you hear his name, you go, "Oh yeah, I've heard of him before."
He obviously had his struggles with addiction while he was at USC. From what I understand, he is doing dramatically better. I'm very glad to hear about that. I hate to hear somebody struggling, regardless of how I feel about him as a coach. I'm just saying that conference was bad last year. I'm not all that impressed. They did beat Alabama, and that was a big deal. But is Steve Sarkisian really a massively influential coach? Is he going to be influential when Texas is in the Southeastern Conference? I don't know, man. They have your guy, Ryan Day, at number 4, Lonzo. They do say this, quote, losing 3 straight times to Michigan will age a man, but Day is only 45 and his career skyrocketed over the past decade. In a short time, he went from Steve Adazio's offensive coordinator at Boston College to, after 2 years as an NFL quarterbacks coach, Urban Meyer's offensive co-coordinator and eventual successor at Ohio State. Even with the aforementioned Michigan losses, he is 56-8 after 5 years with 3 CFB appearances and 5 top 10 finishes. He enters 2024 with maybe the best defense in the sport. He had the best offense per SP Plus in 2021 and has a massive opportunity to again surpass the dreaded Wolverines.
How many of those 8 losses were to Michigan?
3 or 4? 3 or 4?
I would say the majority of them.
No, it's not the majority. It's either one less than half or half.
If you have multiple, but then the rest are to different teams, it would be the majority.
No. If you have 8 losses, if you have 5, that's the majority.
If you have 8 losses, 3
you
of
have
them
more losses to Michigan than anybody else, but that is not the majority of your losses.
the majority of your losses would be to Michigan.
No.
Yes, it would.
The most losses are to Michigan, but not the majority of them are to Michigan. If you have 8, 5 is a majority. That's numbers.
Not if you're going by team, which is what I said. The majority, it's Michigan. You're not going to convince me. And you're thinking I'm dumb, but that's fine. You think that all the time. And I'm right. It's okay for me to be right. It's all right.
Right. When you're right, you're right. And I acknowledge you're right. But the majority of
Thank
the
you
losses
for
are
acknowledging that I'm
the
right.
majority of your losses aren't to Michigan. The most losses are to Michigan, but not the majority of them. You don't. Okay. Doesn't matter. Either way, Ryan Day's number 4. You good with that position on the list? I think I am. Actually, no, I'm not. I'm not.
I'm writing down that you acknowledged I was right so I can pull.
No, I didn't say that. I said
you.
when you are right, you are right. Oh my God, what are we doing here? When you are right, but you are not right now.
Well, now you're going to say I'm right all the time.
If the majority of your losses were to Michigan, that means you have 5 out of 8 losses to Michigan.
No.
If you had 4 losses to Michigan, that would mean exactly half of your losses are to Michigan.
I don't know why you're getting so bent over this.
Because words matter.
Yeah, I know. And you said yours wrong. It's okay. You'll get there someday, kid. Watch the color in his cheeks rise.
If I have 8 M&Ms, one's red, one's green, one's blue, one's yellow, one's brown, and 3 are pink. I know there's no pink M&Ms.
Then the majority of the M&Ms are pink.
No, they're not.
Yes, they are.
The majority of M&Ms are everything but pink. Okay. All right. Anyway, this is pointless. The point here is Ryan Day should be higher than Kalen DeBoer, but Kalen DeBoer is a Saban guy.
He should be. Ryan Day should probably be 2. I mean, all the Michigan stuff aside, all the dude has done is win. I mean, he hasn't won a national championship yet, but I mean, he's won everything else.
Which is very hard to do, by the way. I've done the research.
It used to be harder. It should be easier now.
So,
because you can have a loss and still make it into the playoffs.
You can. And it's about to get a little easier, but also not at the same time. A little easier to get into the playoffs, a little harder to
What I'm saying is a bad day in college football and you're done. I mean, for the entire season, there's a good chance, depending on who that loss was to in on your bad day. Now I think you can have one bad day and you'll be all right.
We've talked about this in the past. I do wonder how much the system is going to favor the mega powers. Is going to favor the SEC and the Big Ten.
I want to now, but I can't because I'll just get really sick.
They've got Lane Kiffin as the fifth most influential college football head coach right now, and Luke Fickell at number 6. Explain to me how Luke Fickell is 6, but Dan Lanning and Mike Norvell are 7 and 8.
Come on, take Fickell off this list.
Yeah, I don't get that one at all. Luke Fickell at Wisconsin. Are we really putting him into the list with Lane?
Obviously, I hold grudges. Luke Fickell is the last one to have a losing season at Ohio State for his one season as coach.
I don't understand Luke Fickell being on this list
because of what he did with Cincinnati.
It's got to be it, right? That's got to be it.
And that was a long time ago.
Yeah. And by the way, not a great first showing at Wisconsin either. Luke Fickell's on the list. All right, as far as young coaches, they've got Dan Lanning, Mike Norvell, Marcus Freeman, Elijah Drinkfitz, Lincoln Riley, Sharon Moore, Rhett Lashley. They put Dion on the list. I actually don't have an issue with that if Dion's going to stick around. But I'm going down through this list of 30, and I'm very intrigued because did you notice what name I did not mention inside of their, quote, successful head coaches with plenty of tread left on the tires list? Luke Fickell made it. Lane Kiffin made it. Ryan Day, Steve Sarkisian, Kalen DeBoer, Kirby Smart. Not a Dabo to be found on that list. I find that very interesting.
Wow, I didn't even think about that. Mm-hmm. I didn't think about that at all.
So we're going to circle back around to this. By the way, a little bit of bad news just heard from Rashad. He is under the weather, so he will not join us today. Going to try to make it tomorrow. Said he is also getting his butt whooped right now as well. We all are.
Yeah, I definitely know about that.
So we'll try to get Rashad back in here tomorrow. So we'll talk Panthers either way coming up in less than an hour from right now. But right now, Lonzo is about to spend the majority of the next 60 seconds, which is more than half of it, talking sports in the Sports Flash.
At least didn't say, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard, and use that voice. The large band of weather across Georgia and South Carolina impacted the Braves, the Atlanta Braves, that is, as last night's game against the NL East rival New York Mets was postponed due to heavy rain. The game is scheduled to be made up on September 26th. The Braves are scheduled for a day game today against the Mets at 12:20. The Charlotte Hornets will end the year with at least 20 wins after a 115-114 victory over the Atlanta Hawks yesterday. Rookie Brandon Miller finished with 27 points, Miles Bridges with 18, and Grant Williams and Trey Mann added 16, while the Hornets went 21 of 22 from the free throw line. Hey, it was bound to happen eventually. Tune in this afternoon from 3 to 7 p.m. for a brand new local show, Wire to Wire. Cole Bryson and Diesel get you up to date on the latest local and national sports news, and it's all Wire to Wire. No time for tactical cough button. Hey, Moles. He seems really upset about the majority thing. Make sure you let him know that I was talking about it. Or maybe he's his own mole. Ooh.
Homeowners get ready with a no-cost home physical. We'll help determine your home value, discuss your home ownership goals, and make recommendations for repairs and improvements to maximize your investment. So whenever you're ready to sell, your home will be ready too. Call an Allen Tate Realtor today or visit homephysical.com to get started.
Love the new card, but how did Harpo.com, my new friend? Oh, honey, Harpo.com has the easiest, most wonderful way of buying a car. I'm in love.
Harpo.com. You now have a friend in the car buying business, and it doesn't suck, and it's free.
Do you owe back taxes or have unfiled tax returns? The IRS won't quit until they get your money. Here's great news, fresh from those in the know. Major changes have happened at the IRS. If you owe more than $10,000, you may be eligible for a 99% reduction of what you owe. Haven't filed a return for a while? Their happy clients are talking. The IRS was going to levy my bank account, but Guardian was able to prevent that and fix all my IRS issues. Thanks again, Guardian Tax. Need relief from crushing tax debt? The IRS now has special programs. Guardian Tax knows all about them. Personal or business, this is the fresh new break you've been hoping for.
We aren't the company you call when you need a hug because you're scared of the IRS. Guardian Tax is the company that wins when you need it most.
Guardian Tax Service is really great to work with. They really help me out. I'd recommend them highly.
Call now for a free confidential consultation. 800-494-7174. 800-494-7174. 800-494-7174.
Unique and unlike any other sports talk show. It's BetMGM Tonight, Monday through Friday from 7 to 11, only on the Fan.
Upstate.
BetMGM is the red zone for casual and hardcore sports fans. Live sports betting updates for all of the night's games as they happen. The latest scores, sides, totals, props, parlays, futures, and much more with real-time, relevant sports wagertainment. Successful BetMGM tonight, exclusively on the Fan
Upstate.
and on the Odyssey app.
Upstate.
WIRD Greenville.
WORD Spartanburg.
WFBC HD.
QC in the first break.
QC in the first break.
Yeah, no one. I think it was like the remake of Heaven Can Wait or something like that.
Check a woods, y'all.
That could be wrong. He came into money somehow or something.
Here we go, ladies and gentlemen. The third hour of the Rob Brown Show goes now. This is the Fan Upstate. Welcome back. Excellent to have you all on Masters opening day. The rain clearing out at Augusta. There are some scattered showers heading towards the area.
I don't know, Rob. There's a lot of orange in those scattered showers. Those are
is.
thunderstorms. Is my
There
understanding.
is. Then it looks like it may.
Don't want to have
still have a
a
little while longer.
Caddyshack moment out there.
Just a Cinderella boy. We will see.
I'm
They are
having the best
currently-
round of my life.
Currently working on the course as we speak. We may see more rain roll through the area off and on over the next couple of hours. We got the update at 5 a.m. saying that they would not tee off before 9 a.m., which is obvious now that we are less than an hour away. But now, of course, we have to wait for the course preparations to continue to see if there are any more scattered showers in the area. We will find out. Wesley is reporting the latest update is tee times delayed until at least 10:30 a.m. My guess was 11. So that's kind of in line. And again, if there are more showers that pop up in the area, they could push that back as well. We will keep an eye on that for you and get you those updates as they continue while we move forward in the show. Coming up in the next segment of the show, Liam McKinnon has been balling out for the Greenville Triumph as of late. They have had a phenomenal start to the season. A team that was projected to begin the season in 8th in the USL League One finds themselves in sole possession of the top of the table. Liam McKinnon scored a handful of goals already. We will talk to him coming up in the next segment of the show. For those of you tuning in for Rashad Beard, unfortunately, Rashad will not be joining us today. He is under the weather. He's going to try to get himself right and be here for us to talk Panther football tomorrow. But at the end of this hour, Zoe and I will talk Panther football to wrap up this hour. In the next hour of the show at 9:20, we, of course, have Fight Club, an extended version of it today because we have got a ton to talk about. We haven't even touched yet the fact that there is a UFC card this weekend, UFC 300, and it's a good one. I mean, it is a card that's got, I don't know what, Zoe, probably 3 or 4 fights that could theoretically be main event fights on their own card. So we'll talk UFC 300. We will continue our look back at WrestleMania weekend from this past weekend. We will, of course, dive into the implications of what happened last night on AEW Dynamite, all of that coming up today at 9:20 this morning. But let us get back to the discussion we were having on the way out the door there. That is about the ESPN list of, quote, 30 coaches who will define the next decade of college football. Now, they did separate these coaches into categories. The first category, successful head coaches with plenty of tread left on the tires. Here are the coaches they put into that category. Kirby Smart at Georgia, Kalen DeBoer at Alabama, Steve Sarkisian at Texas, Ryan Day at Ohio State, Lane Kiffin at Ole Miss, Luke Fickell at Wisconsin. Let's go one step further. Here's their honorable mentions. Matt Campbell at Iowa State, Mike Elko at Texas A&M, Jed Fish at Washington, Josh Heupel at Tennessee, Jonathan Smith at Michigan State, and Matt Rule at Nebraska. Not a Dabo to be seen on that list.
You mean Matt Rule got in there before Dabo?
Yup.
Oh.
Now, let's try to keep it a buck here, all right? Matt Rule
Well,
has
whatever that
been
means, yeah.
Matt Rule has been a heavily successful college football coach.
Last I checked, Dabo Swinney won a couple titles.
I don't disagree. I'm simply saying don't put Matt Rule, failed head coach of the Carolina Panthers, on the list. Put Matt Rule, successful head coach at Temple and Baylor, on the list. But you're right, Dabo not on the list. So let's see the other categories. Let's see who else they put on this list. Let's see who else they have mentioned as influential coaches. Most exciting younger head coaches. Dan Lanning at Oregon. Mike Norvell at Florida State. Marcus Freeman, Notre Dame. Elijah Drinkfitz, Mizzou. Lincoln Riley, USC. Sharon Moore, Michigan. And Rhett Lashley, SMU. Their honorable mentions here. Fran Brown, the new head coach at Syracuse. Kenny Dillingham at Arizona State. And Jeff Lebby, the new head coach at Mississippi State. They have a category named Coaches Named Deion Sanders. On that list is Deion Sanders from Colorado, and shockingly, no honorable mentions on that list.
Oh, so that's it. Only one guy made
it
the
by
list.
himself.
Way to go.
Most exciting younger coaches, Group of Five edition. John Summerall at Tulane, Sean Lewis at San Diego State, Ryan Silverfield at Memphis, Alex Golesh at South Florida. Honorable mentions, Bob Chesney, James Madison, G.J. Keene at Texas State, Eric Morris, GJ, Eric Morris at North Texas, Scotty Waldron at UTEP.
All right, so a good portion of those, okay, none of those have I ever heard of before.
All Group of Five.
You know what none of those guys are? Dabo Swinney.
Rising young assistants. Georgia defensive coordinator Glenn Schumann. Oregon OC Will Steen. Florida State OC Alex Atkins. Penn State OC Andy Kotelnicki. Oklahoma DC Zach Alley. Texas A&M OC Colin Klein. Notre Dame defensive line coach Al Washington. Auburn Tigers receivers coach Marcus Davis. The last category, the next Kalen DeBoers. These are all guys who have made their way up from the lower ranks and are a little up there in age and haven't really gotten their big crack at it yet, but they think will. Paul Simmons at Harding, Jimmy Rogers at South Dakota State, Kurt Fitzpatrick at Cortland, Joe Woodley at Grandview. Not a Dabo Swinney on the list. And I'm going to say respectfully to the Gamecock faithful, Shane Beamer does not have a spot on this list.
Right.
Not yet.
Right. Nor should he. And I am not trying to be funny here. Why is Dabo Swinney not on this list? Does ESPN believe, like some people, that the dynasty is done? And I realize it's been a couple years since they've been in the national championship picture. But is it really over?
I can't say yes. What I can say is, as we talked with, I had Cole Bryson on the show on Monday morning when Zoe was out. And Cole was talking about the performance or lack thereof out of the starting quarterbacks, the starting and backup quarterback.
You mean mostly Cade?
Mostly Cade during the spring game this weekend, where he said, "Look, if we're keeping it honest here, the quarterbacks were frankly not all that impressive during Clemson's spring game. They just did not show up the way that you would have liked them to have shown up." And I think that's probably very fair. I will say that doesn't mean anything is over. That doesn't mean that it's done. That doesn't mean that Clemson's going to be trashed this year. I think what has happened here, frankly, is that people are, justifiably or not, losing faith in Dabo Swinney, and I don't think that doesn't come to any shock of any of us, even the Clemson faithful around here. The last
I don't know.
couple of years.
There's some of them are still living a few years ago, which I get. I completely get. So with the playoff picture being what it is now with 12 teams, Clemson has a better shot to get back in if they can get back to form and only lose like one game as opposed to a couple games like they've been doing.
So I don't think it comes as a shock that, yes, there are people who are still living in the glory days of which right now Clemson is not measuring up.
Come on, Wesley. I hope you're being – Wesley on the stream says ESPN doesn't praise Clemson. Shocker. Come on. It was all Dabo all the time on ESPN during the national championship run. Everyone was interviewing him. He was everywhere. They were on campus all the time. Have you forgotten about that? But as they faded, then so did that network's belief in them.
I do want to be
Marty
clear.
Smith practically lived on campus during that time.
I do want to be clear about one thing. Looking up and down this list, there is, at least on the list of names that aren't like G5 guys or rising assistants, there are, off the top of my head, going back and scrolling the list, there are two names from the entire Atlantic Coast Conference on here. Mike Norvell, who I think has to be acknowledged based on what Florida State did last year, and Alex Atkins, who is Mike Norvell's number one, his OC, his next man up. Outside of that, there is not another ACC name on the list.
What team did they coach for again?
Both of those coaches at the Florida State University.
How'd they do last year?
They were undefeated Power 5 conference champions and co-national champions with the Michigan Wolverines.
They were not. They could probably
very similar to the 2017 national champions, the UCF Golden Knights.
All them Florida teams.
I'm telling you. ESPN hates Florida.
Obviously. Is that a Florida accent?
Florida Panhandle for sure.
Okay, all
Florida
right.
Panhandle for sure.
What you said is just Georgia South, right?
Alabama South.
Okay.
Lower Alabama.
All right.
Yeah, it's
okay.
lower Alabama. So
I've never been to either, so I'm just going to take your word for it.
I do think that Wesley does have a bit of an argument here. If you go down the conspiracy theory, which I do, that ESPN has a vested interest in not promoting the ACC. And frankly, I absolutely believe that to be true. Because what decision is best for the investment of ESPN? It is not to have ACC folks on this list. Now, you can go, wait a minute, Rob, they got everybody else. I don't disagree. But just about everybody on this, or just about every portion of this list, is primarily made up of either SEC folks, Big Ten folks, or folks that have to be recognized. Luke Fickell, Lane Kiffin. And again, I'm not saying he's not. I'm asking you the question. Is Lane Kiffin really a guy we consider one of the most influential in college football? I mean, I guess you could say he is because he has been the transfer portal king, and that is obviously a big part of the game. But is he really on this list ahead of Dabo Swinney? I don't think.
Let's see. Last year, 9-4. Year before, 11-3. Year before, 10-3. Year before, 10-2. Okay. They're losing games. That's the reason why they're not in this anymore. That's the reason why. I mean, so you can look and say there's been a 4-year slip, or there's this thing where Sunshine went to the Sunshine State, and then immediately they didn't win as many games.
Sure. And listen, it is absolutely part of the legacy that there was a decade where Clemson regularly and repeatedly had one of the best 2 to 3 quarterbacks in college football, and now they don't. They missed on DJ Uiagalelei. No matter what he does at Florida State and Oregon State, they missed on him. I'm not fully prepared to say they've missed
Or they
on
just
Cade.
didn't know how to coach them. So we'll see.
I'm not fully prepared to say they missed on Cade Klubnik yet, but he did not look good in the spring. And again, when I say good, I'm not talking about he goes up there and tears up the defense. What I'm saying is you show me growth, you show me development, you show me advancement from last year, and I didn't see that in the spring game. Cole Bryson didn't see that in the spring game. John Blau didn't see that in the spring game. And if I didn't see it, it is more likely that they have missed or failed to coach correctly Cade Klubnik like they did DJU. But here's the thing, whether they missed on the evaluation or they missed on their coaching him up to his full potential, either way, that is part of coaching. That is part of roster building. It is part of player development. And I think that is one of the reasons that a guy that's got multi-natties, a guy that has dominated the ACC for a decade, did not make the list as one of the most influential coaches moving forward. If you ask me right now who I think has a better year next year, the Clemson Tigers or the Wisconsin Badgers led by second-year man Luke Fickell, I will absolutely acknowledge that's not a layup for Clemson. Because, as we have pointed out, the Big Ten is going to be better next year with the addition of all the schools that are moving in. It's going to be a tougher conference to win.
You say it's going to be better. I was going to say like it was a bad conference. The conference technically won the national championship.
It was a bad conference. It was a super top-heavy conference with two good teams, one okay team, and a bunch of teams nobody cared about after that. It was a bad conference.
Hey, did you know that Wisconsin plays Alabama?
Good luck. Good luck, second-year coach Luke Fickell.
We start out Western Michigan, then South Dakota, then Alabama.
Good luck, Wisconsin.
Then USC.
Good luck, Wisconsin.
Then, but then they got Purdue, Rutgers, and Northwestern. Okay. So, I mean, right away, it's like, okay, I could see why they're projected to do pretty well. You know who I don't see on there?
I'm guessing the Ohio State University.
I don't see Ohio State. You know who else I don't see?
Michigan.
Yeah.
I mean, you got a good luck of the draw this year.
They do have Penn State, but I don't see either of those teams on there. So
I'll believe in Penn State when James Franklin actually does something, as opposed to just dropping the big two games every year and beating up a bunch of nobodies. So here's what I'll go with. My knee-jerk reaction is it's a little shocking, a little surprising that on the list of 30, not 5, not 10, 30 most influential coaches moving forward in college football, Dabo Swinney's not on the list. Not on Luke Fickell's on the list. Dabo Swinney's not on the list. Elijah Drinkwitz is on the list at Mizzou, but Dabo's not on the list. After what just happened with Lincoln Riley, Lincoln Riley's on the list, but Dabo's not on the list.
Yeah, you're not going to sell me on the ACC conspiracy that they're just staying away from ACC. I think it's more that Dabo and Clemson has lost multiple games for the last couple of seasons, and they also look at who the quarterback is.
I'd be fine with that. Luke Fickell's on the list. Lane Kiffin's on the list.
Lane Kiffin makes more sense than Luke Fickell, but you know.
I don't disagree with that either. But what I'm saying here is I can come up with the reasons to keep him off the list. I can also make the argument, I guess, that influential means you have to have influence. Dabo was anti-portal. That's not going anywhere. Dabo's anti-NIL. That's not going anywhere, right? Like the things that are progressing forward that Dabo's been against, it hasn't really slowed down those things from happening. So maybe there's a part of this that it's not just that Clemson's lost multiple games the last couple of years, but it's also a fact that the things Dabo has spoken out against not growing in the game have grown in the game. I don't know. I just was a little taken aback by the fact that on this list is not Dabo Swinney. All right, we got a bunch of texters that have responded to this. We're going to talk about that in a minute. But when we come back here in just a minute, Liam McKinnon is a player for the Greenville Triumph. He has been balling out. The Triumph have been balling out. They have no losses to date on the season and hold sole possession of first place in the USL League One standings. We will talk to Lion McKinnon when we come back on the Rob Brown Show in the Fan Upstate.
You see.
All right, guys, quick live read, and then we're back with Lion McKinnon. Y'all stay right there. Rob Brown Show back on your radio. It is the Fan of State. Your Greenville Triumph projected as the 8th best team in USL League One preseason are currently sitting on a 3-1-0 record. They have not lost a match so far. They have moved on to the next round of the Lamar Hunt U.S. Open Cup, and they currently hold the top spot in USL League One, top of the table in large part because of the efforts of our next guest. He is the number 9, wearing the number 9 shirt, playing up front and up top for your Greenville Triumph. He is Lion McKinnon, joining us here on the Rob Brown Show. Lion, what's up, big fella? How we feeling, buddy?
Hey, how you doing? Feeling great.
I love it, man. I love it. First off, congratulations on a hot start to the season, both for you and the club, man. You guys got out to a rip-roaring start in the Rick Wright era. How's that feel?
It feels great, honestly. It's just really amazing to be part of that team and to be part of this, really good start of the season. The vibes are really high in training and in games, and especially at home games, I've seen a lot of fans come out, so it's been great so far.
Lion, I obviously worked very closely with John Harkes when he was the gaffer, when Rick Wright took over. We've had him on the show a number of times, and one of the things that I have loved about this club is what you just said, the vibes, right? Like, this team has had leadership that is constantly excited, even during the ups and downs of a season. The players seem to buy into that style of leadership. Talk to me a little bit about that, about how you guys, even maybe when, and not that it's been a problem so far this year in the early portion of the campaign, but in years gone by, when things have been maybe a little bit more fluid than you'd like, how do you guys in the dressing room make sure that everybody's on the same page, the vibes stay good, they stay positive, they stay high, so that you can fight through those moments?
I think at least this year, Rick has been great with us. He's been great at, giving us responsibility on and off the field. And I think the leaders of the team, the guys that have been here for years, they know how to lead us, and they implement a great culture in the team and in the locker room. And, it's kind of never too high, never too low. We know our value. We know we're not where we want to be yet, but we know we've had a great start. And I think you can feel that in the locker room every day. The older guys really, really guide us, and guys like me that are second year or third year trying to show to the rookies, what path to follow with these older guys. And I think it's a learning experience for everybody because it's a new staff. And I think we've been all very, very professional in that sense. But no, honestly, like you mentioned, the vibes are great, and everybody seems to be enjoying the day-to-day life of the Greenville Triumph. So
something you just said there, Lion, very interesting to me. You said we're not where we want to be at. You guys are 3-1-0 out of the gate. You're in the third round of the U.S. Open Cup. You're at the top of the table in USL League One. If you're not where you want to be, where the hell do you want to be, big dog? Because it's a pretty good start, my man.
I agree. It's a great start, but you know as well as me that it's a 30-plus game season, and if you catch a hot streak or a cold streak, you never know what can happen. I think what really helps us is to really keep that same energy every day, to keep those results coming. And like I said, we're aware that we had a great start, but at the same time, if we look at league play, we've only had 4 games, and we haven't played everyone yet. So I think everybody's aware of that, and they're still working hard. The attitude is not that we've achieved anything yet. So you can also sense that in the way we work every day. And if we have a day where we're not as good in training, the leaders will make sure to make that known and to call us out to be sure that we do better the next day. And I think that's part of our success as well.
You are out to a phenomenal start personally this year, Lime. 3 goals on the season through 4 games. You've got an assist thrown in there as well. You have 10 shots on goal recorded so far. Talk to me a little bit about what the offseason was like for you and how you got yourself ready for the start of this season, a start of the season which has been very good for you out of the gate.
Yeah, I think the off season for me was very important in terms of getting ready for this season. I've done a lot of work fitness wise to get ready for this season. I knew I was expected to play a bigger role than last year, and I think it comes with playing more games and be ready physically. And I've done a lot of work on that aspect to be able to play on the wing every game, and I think that helps me a lot to stay lucid in games and be able to be in the right spot to finish chances. And at the same time, in terms of goals, I have to say that it really comes from the chemistry of the whole team. If I'm there finishing, it could be anyone else, and I hope, like you saw, we have, I don't know how many goal scorers, but we have a lot of guys getting on the score sheet this year. So I think that's part of our strength, that we have many guys that can finish chances. But I know it's part of my quality. So I try to help the team with that.
Liam, I am really intrigued the offensive side of the pitch for you guys, at the versatility and how many different styles you guys are melding together to have such a potent attack. You've got Leo Castro up there, who's been a phenomenal shot creator. You as well. Ben Zakowski, young guy, getting added to the mix. Zion Scarlett, same situation. Of course, Sebastian coming up to play in a support role, a former MLS caliber player. When you guys have so many different vibes across that front line, how have y'all as players and how has Rick as gaffer made sure that with so many different styles of play, you guys are able to come together and form a successful and efficient offense across the front?
I think it comes down to preseason mostly. We've done a lot of work offensively, trying to understand each other. Obviously, you mentioned a couple, even 3 new players in I would say the front 5. And in preseason, we've done tremendous work at, attacking, making sure we score goals. And I think you can see it in games now that I understand what, Seba wants, or what a Zion wants, or what a Ben wants. And they understand what my preferences are. So that helps a lot. I think the work we did in preseason was key. And I think it's hard when you have so many different styles in front of you for the opposing team to defend us. But I think, like I just said, the work we did for the 4 or 5 weeks of preseason was very intense, and you can see it now.
Liam McKinnon plays forward for the Greenville Triumph. They have started this season 3-1-0. They are on to the next round of the Lamar Hunt U.S. Open Cup and currently hold the top of the table at USL League One. We talked about the mix of styles of play. Talk to me about the mix of leadership, because there are guys on this team that have been here for a while. There are the Brandon Frickies. There are the Tyler Pollocks. And then there's a bunch of the new guys, Zakowski, Zion. You're kind of the middle, second-year player. You were here for the end of the Harks era, the beginning of the Rick Wright era. You guys really have maybe the most varied roster in terms of experience that the Triumph have had, at least since I've been covering them. How is everybody, both longtime vets, guys that have been here from the beginning, guys that they're putting on the crest for the first time this year, how do you guys make sure in the locker room and on the pitch that everybody is on the same page with such a variety of experiences between the roster?
I think that the leaders, like you mentioned, the Brendan Frickies, the Evan Lees, Tyler Prolaks, they make it easy for us to understand the culture of this club. So when you step in, even last year for me, it was my rookie year. It was very easy for me to understand what this club's about, the values that we have on and off the field, in training, the attitude that you have to have. And this year, they've just, I feel like they've just even took it to another level in terms of guiding players. And you can tell that when guys that haven't played yet, like, guys that come in, rookies, when they step on the field for the first time, you don't really feel like they're rookies, because you can sense that they understand what's expected from them. And I think that comes mostly from our leadership group on the team. And And like I said, I feel like this year it's been our best asset as a team in training, especially because the standard has been very high, and it's something that's implemented by Coach Rick, but also by the leaders. And like you said, they've been here for a while, and they know it's a long season, and they also remind us that it's important to stay focused and don't listen too much the outside noise and focus on the next game.
We're talking with Liam McKinnon, plays forward for the Greenville Triumph. Talk to me about Coach Wright. It was obviously Coach Wright spent all the time under John Harkes in the last regime. He gets promoted this offseason to be the man carrying the clipboard on the sideline. What would you say are maybe the biggest differences and the biggest similarities between the two head coaches that you've played under here in Greenville?
I would say they're two great human beings. I had a great relationship with John Harkes, and I had a great relationship with Coach Wright last year and this year as well. Me and Coach Wright get along very well. We had conversations about life, about not only about soccer. So it's really great to be around Coach Wright, and from a soccer standpoint, I think he gives us all the freedom we need to perform, and also keeps us at a very high standard in training and in games. And he's very understanding of the needs of every player on the team, and that we're all different, and I think he does a great job of that. And Coach Harkes did very good last year. He was, when I was there, and even before my time, he was very successful as well. And it's different styles, but I think the success of Greenville Triumph just remains, and it can look different, but at the end of the day, our goal is always to be the successful club that we have been in the past.
This team, since it formed 6 seasons ago, has gone such a long way in terms of going from a startup club to really being one of the premier teams in USL League One. Now with back-to-back wins in the US Open Cup, an opportunity to place Greenville even more on the map with success in this tournament. And obviously the competition is going to continue to get tougher in both the USL and the Open Cup. How much pressure, if any, do you guys feel in the locker room, not just to go out there and to play the best football you can play, but to also carry that crest of Greenville Triumph and make sure that the legacy of this club continues to grow?
Of course, we understand that it comes with a certain responsibility to wear that jersey. Every time we step out, we know that we're expected to be one of the top teams in USL 1. And I actually think it helps us. I think when you step on the field and you're Greenville Triumph, you know that the other team also knows that you're the Greenville Triumph and expect you to come with everything on that day. And I think that it's good pressure. I don't think it's a pressure that makes you scared of losing the game. I think it's pressure that makes you want to win the game even more. And I think that's actually something that's been helping us throughout this year. And even if we have a different coach, we'll still the Greenville Triumph.
Got a couple more minutes with Liam McKinnon, plays forward for the Greenville Triumph. I would like to take you back to last year, Liam. I'd like to take you back to June of 2023 in a 5-1 victory over the Chattanooga Red Wolves. You set the record for the fastest hat trick in USL League One history. Also set the record for most goals in a match when you netted 4. How much do you remember that game, think about that game, and are we going to see another 4-goal effort out of number 9 this year?
I have great memories from that game. Obviously, it was a game where you kind of get everything you want out of a game. You get different types of goals. You score a nice first goal to get you started into the game. But yeah, it was an awesome night. Probably one of the best nights of my whole life. And yeah, hopefully this year I can get another one. It would be very nice. I don't know what the odds are for that to happen again, but I'm definitely working hard to make it happen again. But no, it's an amazing memory for me, and yeah, hopefully we can get more hat tricks this year.
Liam McKinnon plays forward for the Greenville Triumph. Last one before we let you go, Liam, and I'm going to tell you, this one's self-serving from me, mainly because Chris Lewis, the president of the club, walked up to me at Star Wars Night at the Win this past Saturday and said, make sure you give Liam a minute to shout out me and the rest of the Villanova Wildcats. How much love do you want to give for the Cats right now, fella?
Oh, yeah, man. Once a Wildcat, always a Wildcat. You know what we say. Yeah, obviously Villanova has been, my first home in the U.S. So, yeah, I like to give a little shout out to Chris Lewis, the Wildcat. Also, Coach Fetro, the new head coach who's just had his first spring game for Villanova, and all the boys up there still. So yeah, go Cats.
I love it. I love it. How big, by the way, as somebody who is obviously representing the community on the pitch, but also Greenville Triumph goes so much out of their way to be invested in not just the community, not just the upstate, but in helping to grow soccer in this area. Just in your short time here, what's it been like for you to help in that effort, and how much have you seen soccer grow around the upstate and around really the southeastern region just in your time playing here in South Carolina?
It's amazing to see. Being from Europe, where soccer is already established, it's really refreshing to see an area that really every year you can notice the difference. There's more kids playing. I was just at CSA watching some training, and I can see the passion. Even parents, they want to see their kids play soccer. And I think with the World Cup 2026 coming, it's going to be even bigger. So no, I can really notice the difference when we do camps and little training sessions for the kids of the area. So it's amazing to see.
Liam McKinnon plays forward for the Greenville Triumph. A phenomenal start to the season as they are on to the third round of the Lamar Hunt U.S. Open Cup. They hold a 3-1-0 record and the top spot on the USL League One table. Liam so far, 3 goals in 4 appearances on the year, and I got no doubt we'll be seeing more of the Triumph on the road tomorrow, visiting Charlotte to take on the Charlotte Independents before heading back to the house the weekend after that. Liam, dude, great to have you on, man. I appreciate it. We'd love to do it again sometime, pal.
Thank you so much. Have a great day.
You got it. My pleasure. What a stud, man. What a baller. Liam McKinnon, forward for your Greenville Triumph again on the road tomorrow at Charlotte. They'll be back next weekend. We will be back after this break on the Rob Brown Show in the Fan Upstate. All right, guys, stepping away for just a minute. Y'all be right back. All right, we're back, dudes and dudettes. Thanks for hanging in there. Good talk. Good talk with Lime, man. Good talk with Lime.
From the Ingles Market Studio,
The Rob Brown Show continues. It is the Fan Upstate. Rob and Lonzo. Thanks to Doug Irwin, Chris Lewis, and everybody over at the Greenville Triumph for setting us up. That conversation with Lion McKinnon, phenomenal. What a dude, man. What a guy. Phenomenal dude, phenomenal player. He has been spectacular so far this year, and I don't expect that the run of play of Greenville is going to slow down anytime soon. Unfortunately, we're going to miss Rashad Beard today as he is a bit under the weather. He will, fingers crossed, join us on tomorrow's show, but we're going to talk Panthers for just
Struggle
a moment.
is real, Rashad.
It is. Lonzo's getting whooped up. I felt like crap to start the week. All right. We're bouncing back, though. Everybody tapping the play like a champion today sign as we make our way out onto the field. All right. We've had some roster moves for the Carolina Panthers. We've had some free agents pickups. We've had some trades. Deontay Johnson coming over from Pittsburgh. You have had the signing of Robert Hunt at the right guard, Damian Lewis at the left guard. Going to move Austin Corbett over to the center position. Hopefully he's able to stay healthy. So I'll throw this question at you guys. With the moves that got made over the offseason, with the moves that got made, has your thoughts on the Panther draft strategy been modified at all? Have your thoughts changed at all? There were a lot of y'all who were suggesting packaging the two early second-round draft picks together in order to move up into the first round and go get a wide receiver. Are those thoughts different now that Deontay Johnson is on the team? There were a number of you that were suggesting going offensive line with both of the second-round picks, just letting Thielen play as wide receiver 2 on this team. Has that changed now that Deontay Johnson got added to the mix? Zoe, after the signing of the two guards and Deontay Johnson, the release of Brian Burns, the extension of Derek Brown, has your thoughts on the draft and the draft strategy of Carolina changed at all?
Well, before we were going back and forth about whether they should go lineman or receiver, but they've seemed to have shored up the line pretty good with experienced guys who have enough time now to gel together and give Bryce Young some time. You got to go receiver. I think you absolutely do. And I mean, they got Jadeveon Clowney. I mean, so they addressed some of the things on defense that needed to be addressed, but receiver is still the biggest need.
I agree. To the point that I depending on how the chips fall, and obviously I told this to Costos yesterday because he was like, lock in your picks. I'm like, yeah, dude, we got 2 weeks out still. There's still a lot of moves. There's still trade picks that are likely going to be traded before we even get to draft day, forget during the first round itself and the second round itself. I am coming around because I agree. Wide receiver is my primary move to this point. I still think there are some spots on defense, defensive back specifically, I'd like to shore up. I think I'm moving over into the thought, depending on where you are at the best pick offer you can get. I think I'm walking myself into the belief that trading the 2 second rounders to move into the first round for a wide receiver might not be the worst idea. Because I've said, I think that there are a few good wide receivers that are going to be available at 33 when the Panthers come on the clock. Obviously, Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to be gone. Obviously, Malik Neighbor is going to be gone. I think both of those guys are gone in the top 7 picks of this draft. I think Arizona's going wide receiver. I would not be shocked to see somebody move up and get Malik Neighbors. After that, it's a question mark. Now, I will also tell you, I told you earlier, Brian Baldinger was on the show with me and Nick Costos on the BetQL Network yesterday, and I got the chance to interview him. And he said, aside from the J.J. McCarthy noise, which I respect the hell out of Baldy and think he knows ball, but I can't get on board with the thought that J.J. McCarthy's going ahead of Drake May. There was something else he threw out there, which is he said he thinks there is a better than average chance that Rome Odunze might end up getting drafted ahead of Malik Neighbors. That there's a lot of folks out there that believe that Rome Odunze, if he wasn't in a class with Marvin Harrison Jr., would be the top guy. He said he thinks he might go ahead of Marvin Harrison Jr. He said there's enough smoke in the air that NFL teams are very high on Rome Odunze that they might shoot him up the board. I'm worried about that if they do. I think if that happens, there might be a wide receiver run. My question mark is, where does that leave everybody that would be mid to late mid-round picks that Carolina might package the 2 2s up to a 1 to go get? Number one, what's the best offer they are going to get for that? 14, 15, 16, 20, 21, 22. James popped up in the stream chat and said, expecting to see that Panther logo show up around pick 24. I honestly think that's a pretty good spot. My question is there anybody off or on the board at 24 that you don't think will be on or off the board at 33? Kansas City's a team I could see drafting a wide receiver, especially with the Rashee Rice story update from yesterday. Dallas police have put out an arrest warrant for Rashee Rice. He has until the end of today to turn himself in.
Knew that was coming, and it should be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that was almost obvious when it came out from his own attorney earlier this week.
I'm just trying to figure out how in the world the Panthers can package something to move up to 24. Are those 2 early second rounds worth move? I mean, it just seems like it's not enough to move up to 24.
I mean, listen, if you're a team that's got 4 or 5 needs,
I'm saying maybe they have to throw something else in there.
Listen, this is where I fall into, and again, there is one spot that I get myself in trouble on radio, because on radio we're supposed to go, you pick a wide receiver or everybody's got to get fired. Rabble, 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 rabble.
You got to throw arbiter in there somewhere, but yeah.
Yeah, you get it. You got to have a take. You pick a wide receiver or Dan Morgan should be fired. It's like, nah. A lot of it's going to depend on what happens on draft day. If I'm a team that's sitting at 24, 25, which means you're close. You're close, but you're not right there. Buffalo, for instance.
Yeah, I know how this sounds, but the Panthers just need to get better. I mean, don't expect them to do a whole lot this year. They just need to get better.
I don't disagree. The draft is how you do it.
Yeah, they need to find some players that will contribute and be there for a while.
The reason that we talk about this is because this is one of 2 opportunities to get better. You have the free agency trade period and you have the draft. This is where you get better or you don't. So getting the draft right is, especially this year, monumentally important. So if I can trade 33, 39, jump up to 24 because Buffalo's got a lot more needs than they're going to address just at their one spot, and they're willing to move, that's a move I'm willing to make. We'll talk more about this on the other side because I got a couple of names that I'm interested in targeting and a couple of names that I think if you stay put, come off the board, and a couple of names that I think if you stay put, stay on it. And I'll tell you who they are when we come back. We've also got Fight Club, what the X is going on, and then we call it a Thursday. We all go home and, fingers crossed, watch a little golf. But before we do any of that, Sports Flash.
Just a warning, I am regressing, but we're gonna give it the old college try. The Charlotte Hornets will end the year with at least 20 wins after a 115-114 victory over the Atlanta Hawks yesterday. Rookie Brandon Miller finished with 27 points, Miles Bridges with 18, and Grant Williams and Trey Mann added 16, while the Hornets went 21-22 from the free throw line. A large band of weather across Georgia and South Carolina impacted the Atlanta Braves as last night's game against NL East rival New York Mets was postponed due to heavy rain. The game is scheduled to be made up on September 26th. The Braves are scheduled for a day game today against the Mets at 12:20. Maybe that rain will be out of there by then. Tune in this afternoon from 3 to 7 p.m. for our brand new local show, Wire to Wire. Cole Bryson and Diesel get you up to date on the latest local and national sports news. Great guests, great debate, and a lot of fun. Wire to Wire. So I got the sinus thing and I got achy joints and all that kind of stuff. I was feverish earlier in the week. That's the reason why I couldn't be here. But my skin hurts. Man, this is weird. I never had something that made my skin hurt. Hard to find comfort when your skin hurts. Cold notes.
Are you over 30 and putting off health insurance? It's time to get a quick quote from me. A better, easier way to get term life insurance, all online with no medical exam. Answer a few health questions and you could be approved for up to $2 million. Isn't it worth 10 minutes to help protect your family's financial security? Ethos, up to $2 million in coverage with no medical exam. Some policies as low as $1 a day. Answer a few health questions and get your free quote at checkethos.com. That's checkethos.com.
Here's how to get in the game on your radio at 97.7 FM in Greenville, 97.1 FM in Spartanburg.
Listen on your phone. Download the Odyssey app and search the Fan Upstate.
There's a whole lot more to know about sound if you really want to go into the subject.
Your smart speaker. Just say, play the Fan Upstate on your HD radio at WFBC.
Okay, so did he get on the train or?
I know, right?
Yeah, he
It
did.
did.
He did. He got on the train. Okay.
Escaped racehorse waits on train and then gets on it. I mean, he had somewhere to be.
I guess.
The correct joke there would have been, did he wait for the train? Nay. But then he did. He got on the train. He looked at the passengers and he said, hey. Horse gets on a train. What a long face.
It's going to be okay, Steven. Take a couple of years to recover probably, but you'll be all right.
I wasn't ready. No one is. No one is. Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, man. You know.
The final hour of the Rob Brown Radio program goes now. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. It is the Fan Upstate. Rob Brown and the Great Malonzo with you on a not-so-lovely Upstate Thursday morning. It is Masters Thursday. We are keeping an eye on the weather over Augusta. Another couple of scattered showers have just popped up, but they do appear to be clearing out. The majority of the worst weather is to the southeast of Augusta National Golf Course right now. I am hoping, we are all hoping, that these will clear out. Now, there's good news and there's bad news. The good news is that by around 11 a.m., the rain is expected to be out of the area. And because Augusta National is pretty good at what they do, the golf course should be ready relatively quickly, and we should be able to start getting guys off on the course. The bad news is I'm not going to let Lonzo poop on my hope and dreams like it's 5:40 in the morning. The bad news is,
yeah, I can read the sky like the next guy. I could jump on the Doppler and we can go toe to toe. Doesn't look good, Rob. I mean, you can be optimistic, but they still have to have time to prepare the course in between rain, and then you got another line of storms coming after that. It's not good.
They do, and it is not going to be easy. I am certainly not arguing that it is. I think what I am saying here ultimately is that I think that, though I could be wrong, it happens about once a month. I think that if they are correct and that the weather is going to, fingers crossed, be cleared out around 11 a.m., that it does not take a ton of time for this course to get into playing shape.
Well, according to what I'm seeing, they still plan on 10:30.
Which, again, fingers crossed, that's when it goes off, because the bit of bad news in this situation.
And 10:10 for the honorary starters. That's when the old people go
That's
out
when
there,
the old
right?
That's when they roll Arnie and Jack out there.
They literally have to roll
They
them.
literally roll them out.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
are not wrong. The fingers crossed version of this is that they do start around 10:30, because if they can get them off by 10:30, you might get the majority of rounds in before what is projected to be the next round of weather kicking in sometime around 5 o'clock this afternoon. And if that weather does click in around 5 o'clock this afternoon, then what you're hoping for at that point is that you're going to get more rounds than you don't. The amount of guys that will have to then go out and start their Saturday by finishing up their Friday will be limited. That's what we're pulling for. Does not mean that is what is going to happen, but that is what we're pulling for. So we'll see how the weather goes around Augusta, Georgia for the rest of the day, and what, if any, impact it's going to have on the course, on the rounds. I do think this does give an advantage if you want to make any plays on this. If you've got a daily fantasy or something like that you are making birdie bets on, then I do think it's probably not a bad idea to maybe throw some coin at the guys that have early tee times. As of right now, the first tee time slated at 10:30 a.m. That's Eric Van Rooyen and Jake Knapp. At 10:42 and 11:18, Jose Maria Olazabal, Taylor Moore, and Santiago de la Fuente. That's a hell of a name, dude. Santiago de la Fuente.
He better look like his name.
I'm even willing to look that up.
Yeah.
Because I'm not uber familiar with Santiago de la Fuente. Let's see if we can pull up old Santiago de la Fuente. Yeah, you know what he looks like? He looks like that Spanish guy that your wife tells you she finds attractive, but you don't understand why. That's what he looks like. Like, he looks like that Spanish guy that he would show up at the pool and your wife would be like, hey. You'd be like, no, not that guy. Like, if you ogle another dude at the pool, I get it, but like not Santiago de la Fuente. It's a good name, though. Like, it feels like if Santiago walked over to your wife and went, hola, I am Santiago de la Fuente. You'd be like, oh, man, I can't say it cool like that. Hola, my name is Rob Brown. Like, Ed, come on, man. It's a great name.
He's a younger dude.
He's a younger dude.
I mean, it's an old person
No,
name.
it's not. Santiago de la Fuente is a young action star you make a movie about. That's a great name. Danny Willett, Austin Akeroyd, and Steven Yeager all going off at 10:54/11:30 a.m. At 11:06, Charles Schwartzel, Luke List, and Christo Lamprecht Another good name. Gary Woodland, Thorbjorn Olesen,
Thorbjorn.
and Bryson DeChambeau. Set at 11.
Is that like a hyphenated?
No, it is not.
So it's Thorbjorn is one.
Which,
one
if
word?
you want it translated, don't worry, I got it. Thunder Bear. That's his name. His name in English is Thunder Bear Olesen.
That is beyond awesome.
You may all call me Thunder Bear from now on. I accept that name. The Bear of Thunder. Thunder Bear goes off at 11:18 at 11:30.
All right, I'm looking at. He does not look like a Thunder Bear.
No, dude.
I expected a husky guy.
If
know,
you get like I see that kid growing up around 8 years old, talking to the old man, and the old man's like, in the gym, Thorbjorn. Why, Dad? I'm 8. I want to play video games. No. In the gym. Why? Because your name is Thunder Bear, kid. I can't have some skinny ass runt named Thunder Bear. I didn't waste Thunder Bear on a comic book fan.
Yeah, I'm not even sure he can grow facial hair. I'm worried about that cool name wasted on. Oh wow.
Yeah.
He could grow into it. He looks like I think he's 34. You know, by the time he's like 43, if he gets some of the gray bear hair and, you know, bulks up a little.
Dude, if you name your kid Thunder Bear, your kid better come out of the womb with abs, man. Like, come on. What a name. Thunder Bear. You better bring heat if you're calling yourself Thunder Bear. Anyway, Thunder Bear goes off at 11:18. Zach Johnson, Corey Connors, Jasper Stubbs at 11:30. Sergio, Chris Kirk, and Ryan Fox at 11:42. Lucas Glover, Byung-Hoon An, and Harris English at 11:54. Lefty, Phil Mickelson, going out just after noon, 12:06, along with Sepp Straka and Tony Finau. And then Nick Taylor, Joaquin Neiman, 12:18. Patrick Cantlay, Minwoo Wee, and Ricky Fowler at 12:36. Hideki Matsuyama, a very popular bet to win this thing at 12:48, along with my dog, Willie Z, Will Zalatoris, and Justin Thomas. John Rahm, your defending champ. Matt Fitzpatrick, Nick Dunlap at 1 o'clock. Scotty Scheffler, your probable champion. Rory McIlroy and Xander Schauffele, a marquee group at 112. One of my favorite picks to win at the price you're getting them, Wyndham Clark, Victor Hovland, Cam Smith at 124, Lee Hodges, Adrian Moronk, and Grayson Murray at 136. Some of the other notable names, I don't want to go through all the rest of them, but Camila Villegas is going out at 148, Vijay Singh at 212, Fast Freddie Couples at 224, Justin Rose at 242, Shane Lowry, 254. Bubba Watson in the 306 group. Patrick Reed going out with Sung Jae Im at 318. Keegan Bradley is at 330. Adam Scott at 342. Eldrick slated to go out at 354. I don't love that. Let me tell you why. Because if they do indeed have rain coming back in the area and have to suspend play at 5 p.m., that means Eldrick's probably got to go out and play a back nine on Saturday morning, rally and recover, and play a second 18 in the afternoon.
Oh, trust me, he's already feeling it.
Oh, without a doubt. He's going out with Jason Day and Max Homa at 354. Brooks Koepka at 406. Jordan Spieth. Ludvig Aberg at 418 with Sahith Theegala. You could have a winner out of that group. Spieth, Aberg, and Theegala are all competitors at 418. And then DJ, Dustin Johnson, Colin Morikawa, and Tommy Fleetwood at 4:30 this afternoon. There's your tee times again. Right now, the Masters has said they are hoping, fingers crossed, to get the first set of golfers out at 10:30 this a.m. So we'll see how that plays out. And yes, my dude's name is Thunder Bear. Damn! That's a great name. It's a great name. All right. Let's finish up a thought that we were having in the last segment.
Is that the guy you go out drinking with?
Thunder Bear?
Yeah.
I'll do anything Thunder Bear wants to go do.
Okay. All
what
right.
don't you do that is cooler if your name is Thunder Bear?
I'm sorry I'm late, honey. I was out with Thunder Bear. You know what happens when you do that. I mean, you know.
Thorbjorn.
You go as long as Thunder Bear wants to go.
Listen, babe, I understand I was up till 4:30 this morning playing Call of Duty. But Thunder Bear said the boys needed another dub before we called it a night. You think I'm saying no to Thunder Bear? You get on the phone and tell Mrs. Thunder Bear that we can't hang out anymore. Also, if you marry Thorbjorn, if you marry Thunder Bear, instantly that woman's name becomes Mrs. Thunder Bear, right? Without a doubt. All right.
Or water buffalo or something. I don't know.
Water
Let's
buffalo?
try to think.
What? Yeah, but you went with water buffalo?
Yeah.
You could have gone with like lightning shark.
Opposites, man. The opposite of thunder would be, I don't know, silence, I suppose.
Thunder Bear. All right, we were talking Carolina Panthers there for just a second. Let's go wrap up some thoughts that we were talking about on that one. The more I think about it, the more I am. Should the board shake out the way I think it's going to shake out, which is an early wide receiver run? I've been saying for a while, I think you hang with 2 second-round picks, and I think you go with wide receiver at 33 and best available at 39. Best available, that fits a need. Defensive back, edge rusher to pair opposite Derek Brown, whatever you end up doing. Maybe you find yourself the center of the future in case Austin Corbett goes down with another injury, which unfortunately has been what's happened to him more often than not. But then I think there's a wide receiver run coming. We know our top three. We know our top three are Malik Neighbors, Marvin Harrison Jr., Rome Odunze, not necessarily in that order. I think they're coming off the board, MHJ, Malik, Rome. But Brian Baldinger told me yesterday there's a number of NFL teams that are considering moving Rome Odunze up to the top of that list. I don't agree with it. I like the guy a lot. But I think those two guys, Malik and Marvin, I think they stand out amongst most any wide receiver class. So I'm not quite ready to bump Rome up there. But I think once those three come off the board, I think there's a run. Brian Thomas Jr., Adonai Mitchell, Ladd McConkey. I think those are names that are likely available to you in the mid-teens. Ladd McConkey, I think, is the most limited of the group. He's obviously not an X. You know what he is? Young Adam Thielen. My question mark here is, if you're Carolina, does getting young Adam Thielen when you already have old Adam Thielen make a bunch of sense? It does if the future is next season, not this season, in which case it does make sense.
Which is why it does make sense, because they're not going to do anything this season. Why not bring a guy who can be the next guy to learn underneath that guy?
Here's why. And I am, so that we're clear, not fully committed to anything yet. Much like my real life, commitment is a struggle for me. But the reason why is this. Because if you are going to be bad this year and the goal is a good season in 2025, which I agree it should be. Atlanta found their quarterback. That was the biggest piece. The roster, if not the coaching, is good in New Orleans. I think they're a better team. Tampa Bay just won the division and a playoff game. I think they're a better team, even if they are going to take a step back this year. The reason why is, to me, you may not like it, this draft is about catering to Bryce Young. This draft is about making 2024, if not successful. I do think you need to define what successful is, but if not successful in terms of competing for the division, maybe stealing a wild card spot, I think your goal here is to do everything in your power to make this year as easy of a developmental year for a rookie year as Bryce Young can have.
It's not his rookie year.
It is his rookie.
Please stop that. It is not. You're the only one who says that. This is his second year, but you said like it or not. Why would you not like the fact that the team is going to try to help their quarterback who they're going to have for a while? I mean, that's what you should be doing. They already did that by supposedly, and we'll see, shoring up the offensive line. So you need to get them some more weapons. Running back group could be better with the offensive line being what it is. And those guys both have been pretty good when they were behind good offensive line. So why would you not cater everything around making Bryce Young better?
Here's the good news. I do agree that running back needs to be a consideration for the Carolina Panthers. Miles Sanders wasn't the guy. Chuba Hubbard, Raheem Blackshear, those guys can be good but not great.
Yeah, but they had to deal with with coaches who didn't realize that they had a running team and they didn't have an offensive line to handle being a running team, and now they do.
So you have shored up the offensive line here.
Wasn't Sanders good when he was behind a good offensive line?
He was better. He was better than he was last year. But again, I even with a bad offensive line, which we agree on, Miles Sanders still did not do anything extra last year. I need somebody who's going to do extra behind Bryce Young. Here's the good news. The good news is this is a good, not great crop of running backs this year. The problem is you don't have a ton of the big boys out there, okay? I'm looking at Jonathan Brooks out of Texas, about the most prototype running back in the draft. I'm looking at Jalen Wright, who is an athletic, very youthful player, not the most vision guy. I'm looking at Blake Corum out of Michigan, who had a slowdown after his meniscus tear, but was pretty good last year. Does not have elite athleticism, though. Tremendous running vision, but not elite athleticism at the running back spot. Unfortunately, I think in today's NFL, you kind of do have to have elite athleticism, either speed or size, to succeed at that position. I don't know if Blake Corum's got that. But then you find some names I'm intrigued by. Trey Benson, Ray Davis out of Kentucky, Marshawn Lloyd out of USC, Audric Estime out of Notre Dame, Braylon Allen out of Wisconsin, Will Shipley out of Clemson. A lot of interesting names that have versatile skill sets that I'd be interested in. None of them in the second round, probably, honestly, none of them in the third round, or at least not in the early third round. I think a lot of these guys are probably mid-third round guys at the best, with the exception of the first couple of guys that we named. So, because of that, I am finding myself drifting more and more toward the belief that the right play here is to package the 2 second rounders and get the best wide receiver you can get. I've been saying for a while, I was looking at guys like Troy Franklin. These are guys that I think are going to be available at 33 and guys that I think could be pretty good at the next level. I want to move up to get the best I can get. And that means moving as high as I can get with the 2 second rounders and at most like a fifth, right? I'd be willing to go 2 seconds and a fifth, 2 seconds and a sixth, somewhere in that spot.
Wow. So you really believe there's going to be someone there worth that?
I think I am looking at names like Adonai Mitchell out of Texas. Now, I will also say this is predicated on my belief that there's going to be a wide receiver run early. If there's not a wide receiver run in the first 12 picks, then I think you're okay. If we get to the point where, let's say, Rome Odunze's on the board at 9, Brian Thomas Jr. is on the board at 13, I might not move. I might stay there. I think you probably lose out on Adonai Mitchell, but now I'm more convinced that a guy like a McConkey, a guy like a Franklin, a guy like Roman Wilson, Ricky Pearsall from Florida, Jermaine Burton from Alabama, those guys will be available in those spots.
And maybe you can get 2 of them.
And maybe you can get 2. Do you want to go 2 wide receivers, though?
Why not?
Because you added Deontay Johnson to the mix. Before Deontay got brought out of Pittsburgh to Carolina, I was all in on 2 wide receivers. Deontay is a solid wide receiver 1. Do I think he's one of the best in the game? I think he's a top 12 wide receiver in the game, top 13 wide receiver in the game. I don't think he's inside the top 5, but I think he is a more than capable wide receiver X. When I said I was going 2 wide receivers, my thought was I got to find an X and I got to find a Y that allows me to move Thielen into the slot. Now I just got to find a Y. Deontay's my X. That is locked in. He is your wide receiver 1 when this year starts, assuming he doesn't get hurt in the offseason program. But if he doesn't get hurt in the offseason program, Deontay's my 1. Now I need a 2 to move Thielen to the 3 and play him in the slot where he needs to be playing. It also allows me to use probably 39 on that edge rusher. to go find that edge rusher that I can plug opposite of Derek Brown and have him play a stud spot. So that's where I'm sitting right now on the Panthers draft after the moves. Let's run to a break. When we come back, it is Thursday, and you know what that means. It is time to talk pro wrestling, boxing, MMA. It is time for Fight Club with the great one, Lonzo. It's next on the Rob Brown Show in the Fan Upstate. All right, guys, we're going to step away for 30 seconds, get set up for the Fight Club. We'll be right back.
Dying. That would
I
suck.
hope you're not dying too, bud.
That would really suck. I mean, it's going to happen eventually. Me and Ray in the same month. I mean, how would the show ever recover?
It wouldn't. I'd be out of radio.
Nah, there are other Wisconans out there. Welcome into the Fight Club, where we're going to take you out, even if we're not 100%, because we're that good and you're not. Sorry that you're not, but we're not you, so we don't care. A lot of things. Speaking of not caring, I know we need to talk about WrestleMania and everything, but there's this thing that may or may not have backfired. So during WrestleMania, it was all over social media because CM Punk went on Ariel Helwani and told apparently the truth from what we've seen about what conspired backstage at Wembley between he and the scapegoat. And he acted like he was reluctant to say it. I'm not so sure about that. So he tells all, and then suddenly Tony Khan says they're going to show the entire video of the incident. I don't know if that's an entire video or not, but it's enough to believe everything that CM Punk said. And I don't want to do that. I'm not a CM Punk fan. Still think he's a troublemaker, but it looks like he was telling the truth about what happened between he and Jungle Boy. And it is all over my social media. I don't know about Rob's, about what a mistake Tony Khan made. Here's why would you release this? Rob, what do you think he thought was going to happen when he did this?
This is a weird spot for me. Well, for AEW, because you got two things going on. Number one, they're the little brother, and there's the concept of little brother mentality, right? You see this in college football rivalries all the time.
Not very tactful.
Yeah, that was gross. We could hear that.
My bad.
I could hear the liquid in that.
Yeah.
That was gross. The problem you bump into here is you are going to be accused of having a little brother mentality. The flip side of that is, if we're being honest, WWE talked about AEW a lot in the 2 weeks leading up to WrestleMania.
They kind of goaded them into this. It almost looks like a setup.
There's also another side.
Maybe you find out real quick. Maybe you find out what the mentality of the person is who's over something, and you know that you can manipulate them into doing something they probably shouldn't do.
So WWE talked about AEW a lot leading up to WrestleMania, specifically individual actors, those with connections back and forth. They were even referenced in promos, like when Rhodes was in the ring and you had Roman talking about the fact that you went somewhere else and you didn't even win anything there, right? And they had all these references. So if you're AEW, you have two ways to handle this, which is either A, you say nothing at all and you just let it go and you move on to whatever your next chapter is, or B, you fall into, let's be real, what 2024 is. That is, all press is good press. Because even if people are talking bad about you, it gets clicks. Was it a good idea to show the footage last night? I don't know. I guess it depends on if you had a side already. I will say this, based on what I'm seeing on social media, if you were a Punk or WWE guy, you think it was silly and makes Punk look good. If you're a AEW and Tony Khan guy, you think it made Punk look bad. It's like Pete Rose gambling discussions. Nobody's changed their mind based on this footage. But what it has done is create a world where AEW has gotten more social media push in the last 24 hours, 48 hours, 36 hours than they were able to generate with wrestling in the past 3 months.
It's kind of sad. Good, you got the push and you can point out, hey, our ratings are up and all that kind of stuff. But what are you going to do next week? You would hope that your product would cause that to happen. And there were some good matches on last night, including starting out with a beatdown between Swerve and Joe. And then you got Adam Copeland versus Penta. That was really good. Then there were some matches that weren't so good. But, it started out really strong. And it seemed like after the video was played, it kind of went downhill a little bit.
So I think a large chunk of this, a big part of the discussion that goes on here is it's kind of like advertising. I've had people tell me in the business before, like, I don't understand, if you put out a great product, people are going to come. No, they don't. Not if they don't know about it. Not if they're not sold into it. This is why advertisers advertise. It's not about, I need to put my commercial on the radio and hope that you're going to get in your car and go buy my thing right now. It's just that at some point you're going to need that thing. And I hope that you recall the advertisements that I've run in the past. AEW is right now the best it's been in a while. Not ever, but the best it's been in a little while. The problem is because they did have that downslope and they cannot win just by quantity of audience members like WWE. They've got to find ways to get people to tune back in and then present them. If you turned in for that video footage last night at the beginning of the show, that's why they had Swerve come out and beat the hell out of Joe right out of the gate. You're like, oh, what's going on here? I need to come back for this. It is why they immediately followed it with a banger between Penta and Adam Copeland, a.k.a. Edge. You think that match was put there because Edge wanted to get out of there and get home to Beth early? No. They put it there so that if you watched the video footage and you stuck around and it was the reason you tuned in, you went, oh, damn, Edge is here. I might as well stick around for an Edge match and utilize that as a foundation to try to get people to stay with you for the rest of the show and hopefully for shows going forward. I don't think it was a bad idea, not just to show the footage, but to use it as a draw to your show. Welcome to media in 2024. This is why there's so many hot take artists in sports radio, because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if you watch it and you love it. It doesn't matter if you watch it and you hate it. It doesn't matter if you watch it and think it's the greatest thing or the worst thing that's ever been broadcast. It just matters that you watch it.
All right. Hopefully Tony Schiavone's reaction at the end of the thing is not what's about to happen in AEW. A lot of comparisons to WCW. Even James on the stream is mentioning it. Also, and we'll get away from this in a second. Well, before I move on to the Scapegoat's next member of the Elite, isn't he? They've got Okada in there. Supposedly Hangman is suspended. They fired Kenny. So there's always 4. There has to be 4. It's going to be Jack Perry.
I would think if they're smart, they do that, because not only, listen, Jack Perry's going to come back with a heel rub. That's the character he went over to Japan to work on for a little while. Here's what I'll say, because I still want to talk about the video itself. In what I saw, we don't hear the conversation. There's no audio. Like I told Lonzo, it's a security cam. They traditionally don't have audio. I hope one day the recording comes out, because I think that will put it into context. But what I did see in a very quick watch this morning was Punk and Jack Perry having a conversation off to the side. You can see Joe walking around. You can see a number of other wrestlers walking around. At one point, Jack Perry goes to run his hands through his hair, and when he's pulling his hands through his hair, Punk shoves the crap out of him. Then they start to get into it. As Jack's being pulled away, Punk throws what appears to be a punch, which does confirm a lot of what AEW has said happened. And I will say this, for the folks that are looking at this through the lens of professional wrestling, I get it, but I want you today, don't do this. I want you today to go into your office. I want you to walk up to that guy that you've had an issue with at work. I want you to have a conversation. And the minute that he pulls his hands away, I want you to shove the crap out of him. And I want you to let me know if you have a job tomorrow.
Here's the thing, though. And so you and I are having a conversation. I put my hands in my hair, not as beautiful as Jack Perry's, but it may be that was at one time. What would I have to say to you? Because we don't know what he said. What did he call Punk? What did he say something about his wife? What did he say?
I'm going to go ahead and say that in the land of idealism of which you are the emperor, yes, there are things that you can say that get a rightful shove to the ground. When you
what does that have to do with the?
I'm going to tell you.
Why are you cracking on me? I just was asking what someone would have to say to you to get you to shove them.
When you are at work You do not put your hands on somebody.
Oh, I know that.
End of discussion.
I know that. I've been threatened in this very building before by someone, and but there was no hands.
I will say the person who loses the most in this is Tony Khan.
Yeah.
And it is because Tony Khan is 6 feet away, off to the side, and he doesn't move. That's the spot where you, as the boss, have to get involved. You have to step in.
It's because he was afraid for his life, is what he said.
Yeah, is what he said.
Yeah,
and listen, on one hand, you're a skinny ass, nerdy little son of a billionaire who has never once in his life had to do an actual job. Okay? I get it. You've never been around actual work, and I understand that. On the flip side, you wanted this company. Regardless of how you started this company, you started this company. These are your employees. You stroke the checks at the end of every month. These are your guys. I don't care if both of these guys would whoop your ass into non-existence if you got into it with him. You, as the boss, have to step in and start handling. It should have been handled well before it came to this.
Or if anything, you stand up and you call in people and say, "Hey, separate them."
Yeah.
I mean,
you need to have done something here.
You yell at Joe, get over there and stop that.
You need to have done something here. You did nothing here. At the end of the day, you can. And I feel, like I said, I think a lot of this has to do with what side of this discussion that you were on before the video came out. If you were a Punk guy, you think Punk looks good. If you were an AEW guy, you think Punk looks bad. The only guy that I think actively looks worse for all of this is Tony Khan.
Yeah, that's the thing. No matter what side you're on, it's a bad situation all the way around. First of all, you're in London doing the biggest thing that your company has ever done, and people are backstage fighting. And then, there are firings over it, there are suspensions, and then because it's being brought up somewhere else, you decide to show it. It may help for an immediate push, but in the end, I don't know overall if it does any good. Speaking of which, the best wrestler on the planet Earth, Will Ospreay, went at Triple H because Triple H was on with McAfee. That's who he was on with. And he mentioned about a talent not willing to do the grind and that is WWE and signed elsewhere. I had no idea who he was talking about when I watched the interview live. Apparently he was talking about Will Ospreay, who didn't like it and basically said Triple H has his position because he does something with Stephanie McMahon.
The old bow chicka bow wow.
Yeah.
This one is also very intriguing because, again,
I thought this was more cringe than the video.
See, I don't, and there's a couple of reasons for it. Number one, just like wrestling is fake fighting between fake personalities, the competition between WWE and AEW is legitimate, but both are going to use whatever they can use in order to give themselves the best opportunity to succeed, to advance. Right now, for most of us that are tuned into both, Will Ospreay is the best wrestler in the world. Better than Daniel Bryan, Bryan Danielson, better than Kenny Omega, better than everybody on the WWE roster. He is the best wrestler in the world. And if you are, as AEW right now is leaning into this catchphrase of AEW, where the best wrestlers wrestle, he's that guy. And just like you will see on social media all the time, people frequently try to goad celebrities into getting a response. They will say things that they don't believe or that are untrue in order to get a response. Why? Because in 2024, visibility is everything. So if you send out the best wrestler you have to aim and fire at Triple H, a guy that right now WWE has up on a podium because of how good WrestleMania was and how good everything was leading up to it, then what
I think the world has him on a podium. I don't think it's necessarily the company.
No, I mean, WWE, okay, if everybody else, WWE still does. He is on a podium right now amongst WWE fans. You are taking a shot at the king, but you are using, if you're AEW, the best wrestler you have to do it for the exact same reason we talked about the video. My goal is to get fringe WWE fans to go eyes on Will Ospreay and then go, damn, this guy actually is really good. And oh, by the way, it felt about as natural of a promo as I've ever seen anybody do. And then he goes out and puts on bangers of a match.
So I'm curious. Do you know anybody who's a fan of only one and not the other?
Yes.
Well,
Yes.
obviously, my circle not very big. I don't
Yes.
know anyone like that.
I absolutely
So,
do. I know fans of both, not of the other. And by that, I mean, I know WWE guys who could not care less about AEW, and I know AEW guys who do not watch WWE anymore. You know one of them. We've gone to an AEW show with them before. So it is not
Yeah, but he knows everything about WWE. How could he know that without watching it?
because he's a wrestling guy. It's always going to get into your circle.
Yeah,
just
but
just like how your Twitter feed right now, no matter what you do, it's like, oh, this is on there. It's because you build a circle that it's unavoidable. The biggest wrestling company in the
Hey,
world.
I watch both. If I had time for another company, I would throw that in there too.
No
But
one's
I
accusing
don't.
you of not doing
Yeah.
that. What I'm saying is, yes, I do know people like that, and the game is publicity. This is why, and hell, I've been guilty of it in the past too. This is why people on this level of radio, this is why so many of them take direct runs at people on higher levels of radio. Because if you can get theoretically, of course, if you can get a Paul Feinbaum to mention you by name on your radio show one day and put it on ESPN on your television, would you look at that? Your follower count jumps up. I'm not saying anybody's ever done that specifically.
Wow, it's like going after a certain coach and getting him to respond. Yeah,
It gets attention.
Yeah.
It gets your follower count up. It gets your listener count up because people go, never heard of this guy. But if Feinbaum's calling him out by name, if my favorite college football coach is calling him out by name, I might listen just to hate. But as I've said before, when Odyssey gets our listener reports at the end of the month, it doesn't say X number of listeners, Y number listened out of hate, X or Z number out of love. It just says this many people tuned in. And I want that number as high as I can have it, no matter the reason why.
I wish they did have that number because I would love to. I would hope that my haters are more than people who love me.
Yeah.
Because hate is love for me. All right. Roman Reigns. Does he still exist, Rob? Did he lose and now he just no longer exists because he lost and now people are acting like he can't have a rematch or he's never wrestling again? And did he just disappear off the face? Did he retire immediately?
No, listen, people.
Did the bloodline just suddenly disband?
You've heard the expression out of sight, out of mind. You've heard the expression out of sight, out of mind. And
well, he lost and he's been on. He's always off TV for like a couple of weeks. So
what it is that Roman's going to take some time. I'm sure he's going to come back. I'm sure he's going to have a rematch. I'm sure he's going to lose that rematch. And I'm sure he's going to lose that rematch as a platform to set up whatever is next for Cody, Jay, Jimmy, Solo, and probably Jacob Fatu, who reports are he's on his way. And I'm excited to see that. I think that what you needed to do here is have a bit of a cool off for Roman to give him a little time to allow the revelry for Cody. Because if Roman comes out, Cody's story being finished is overshadowed immediately by the next thing. And I think they want a little bit of an afterglow for Cody's victory because of how much time they invested into it. He'll be back.
all right, one last thing before we go to break. UFC 300 is this weekend. It's billed as the greatest card of all time, but going through, and there's some really, really good fights. I see light heavyweight, strawweight, lightweight, middleweight, lightweight, featherweight, bantamweight. You know what I don't see? Heavyweight. And that's where you get people. There are big names, but not the big name.
I think this is one of the best cards UFC's ever put together, but I think you've got to be an enthusiast to be a fan of it. Big names, heavyweight names. Heavyweight names is how you get people from the outside, fringe fans, casual fans, to want to tune in. A card like this is how you bolster your base. This is how you get Robin Lonzo to go, yep, I'm buying this one.
Yeah, but throw one. Even in the prelims, I don't see a heavyweight.
I agree, but also you built this great card of lower division guys. I say lower weight division guys. if I was to throw pick me a heavyweight of your choice on there, that's a name, it overshadows this other incredible card you've put together. It overshadows everything else. Just like Roman coming back would immediately overshadow Cody's story, throwing a heavyweight title fight on there or even a contenders fight immediately overshadows what is an otherwise fantastic card. That's Fight Club. What the X is going on next, and then we are out of here on Masters Thursday in the Fan Upstate. Roman is probably filming a Scorpion King movie. Son of Scorpion King.
I don't think Logan Paul will be a heavyweight, Steven. Why is there no heavyweight class for women?
Don't know.
I don't know either. I mean, what's the heaviest class for women? In 2024, when we're striving for equality, why aren't the big women getting the fight? It's okay to have fat dudes, but you can't. I mean, I've never really thought about it before.
I think right now, if they could find that, they would.
I don't know. I've seen some videos lately of some stuff, and I don't know. UFC, the heaviest is featherweight, 145.
I think if there were enough competitors to establish that division, they absolutely would. I think in professional wrestling,
I mean, if there's an awesome Kong-like person out there fighting in the UFC, I want to see that.
I agree. And I think UFC would do it because I think it would.
Would they? Because the heaviest is 145.
Right. That's what I'm saying. I don't think that demographic exists, to be honest with you.
So heavy girls don't want to fight.
No, I don't think.
My experience back in high school, those are the ones who did want to fight.
I agree. But there's a difference between fight and fight well enough that it sells tickets on a television show.
I've seen some sloppy men. All right, time to ask Rob what the X is going on, and he will let us know why. The first thing that's Xing is National Pet Day.
I mean,
I wonder why
is National Pet Day if you have a pet. I didn't know we had a National Pet Day. I will go ahead and tell you right now, the pupper's getting a pup cup today. All right, she deserves it. She's a good dog.
Every day is a national day of something.
It is. Yesterday was National Siblings Day. In which case the Red Sox had a pair of brothers going yad in the same inning. That's pretty cool.
Did you and your brother exchange insults?
We did not. My younger brother has the same issue as you do, where he texts me and he expects that I'm going to respond, and then sometimes I just don't. He is currently actively working on planning out the bachelor party, and sent me a date yesterday that I forgot to immediately get back with him. So we didn't exchange pleasantries yesterday. Just business.
But you at least talk to him on natural.
Yeah, I sent him one text. I said, I'll look at my calendar. Which I did.
So National Pet Day. So to give your pet a treat, apparently. All right. The next thing that's Xing is Joker 2.
Listen. I've only seen one thing from it.
The trailer, it's like a 3.5 minute trailer's out.
Okay. I'm intrigued in this movie. I enjoyed the first one, but obviously if you tuned in waiting for classic unhinged Joker, you didn't get it. It was a cinematic movie, and I frankly thought it was a good one.
Yeah, the pacing for me was very 1970s. The last 10 or 15 minutes of the movie was really good, though.
I thought it was phenomenal. I think it was and for the record, it was more of an exhibition of the impact of mental illness to me. It was a deep dive on the breakdown of the character as opposed to he's a bad guy and he's a clown. Get it? Batman's going to show up. Get it? Like it was a interesting.
Well, Batman was there. He's just like 8 years old.
It
or
was
something
an interesting alternate take on the Joker. But the fact that they opened this trailer with a lipstick on a window, and then he turns to where the lipstick goes over the mouth, and then he smiles to me. First off, phenomenal shot. I mean, phenomenal shot as a guy who appreciates film. Phenomenal shot. So it looks like they're going to delve a little bit more into a classic Joker fix in this one.
Except for the fact that it's a musical. And so the majority of the thing appears to be he and Harley Quinn imagining that they're singing a bunch of things.
See, I'm okay with that because, again, the premise of this series, if you went into this wanting a superhero movie or a comic book villain movie, you're not going to get it. This is actually an interpretation of, again, the mental illness that led this cat to becoming this universe's Joker. It's not a fun comic book bad guy movie.
Right.
It's an art piece.
I don't know why you're being defensive.
No, I'm not being defensive. Okay, I am being defensive because I've seen a lot. I don't want a singing Joker. It's like, this isn't the Joker. If you want that Joker, go watch Jack. All right, go watch Heath. Go watch a Joker movie.
I'm not sure Joaquin Phoenix's voice is the greatest, but
I don't think it's going to be either. But the premise of there was an episode of Scrubs back in the day that was a musical, and they set it up by there was a lady who had a head injury, and in her brain everybody was singing. In real life, they weren't singing, but in her head they were. And I think it's going to kind of go down that path, and I think it's got possibilities.
It looks like there might be some wonderful musical numbers in there, including very cinematic. He's walking with in between umbrellas that are all different colors, and you're hearing. I'm gonna go see it. I just hope the pacing's better. That's really why I didn't like the first one that much.
I loved it. I thought the first one was good. I thought
the first one was predictable too. So maybe this one won't be as predictable.
It was meant to be that. I think they made it that way. I think they made the pacing odd so that you always felt unsettled by the pacing because that is how people with a mental illness struggle. And I think it was the point to make you feel where people in that situation come from.
The majority of this show, I was right.
Yeah, you were right. Like 3 out of 9 segments, which in your opinion is a majority, but it's not a majority. It's not how numbers work.
Let's go.
Back tomorrow on the Rob Brown Show. Enjoy the Masters round 1, everybody. We'll break it all down tomorrow on the Rob Brown Show and the Fan Upstate later. Yeah. Steven, they have given you 1,000 Batman movies. Go watch any of them. One movie not being the way that you want it is not going to ruin your fandom.
Again, why so defensive? I mean, you just ready to fight that?
Because
stop seeing punking.
The comic book bros, of which I am one, so that we are clear. The comic book bros are like, cater to me. It's not how movies work.
You guys have no idea how loud that was.
Not any louder than I am.
It was no. That was like taking a sword and going.
Very dramatic. Very dramatic.
Oh, it was like that was. Yes.
All right, dudes and dudettes. Thank you guys for being here. Hope you enjoyed it. We'll be back tomorrow to do it all over again, but better. Don't drink and drive. We'll punch you in the face. Have a lovely day. Tell your friends about us. Help us grow the show. Love you long time. Mean it. Goodbye.